What I'm trying to say in the final analysis, once we take control of ourselves, we have to stop being imitators and be innovators. And realize we've got a continent 12 million square miles. Wherever our bodies are on the face of this earth, our cultural and political heartbeat is in Africa. Whether you ever go to Africa or not, that is your home, that is the home of your spirit, and that is the heart and meaning and definition of your commitment. And none of us, any place in the world, will be free until that continent is free.
The Masi Warrior Clan was created because myself and others like Brother Nahisi saw a need for a young African group to analyze information concerning the African phenomenon with no bias, with rigor, and with scholarship. We created the Masi Warrior Clan for the purpose of being an expert research team, of being a team that produced products, a team that was capable of producing products for African people globally to dispel myths, rumors, and provide them with accurate scholarship.
Peace to everybody in the chat.
It's your favorite warrior, Black Panther, in the building today. I got my special guest. I got my panel. I got my brother Sean with me. And, you know, these brothers right here have been fighting the good fight, as they say. Multiple shows, multiple dialogue, multiple conversations. They have addressed a phenomenon known as ADOS and FBA. So I thought, you know, just me being an organizer, let's get them all in one room and, you know, let's have this conversation. Brother Sean, how you doing this evening?
And I'm hanging in there, blessed to be here. Peace to everybody in the chat. Please like the show, share the show, and make sure you tag all your friends, man.
For sure. Brother, purpose of this video, Brother Osir, how you doing today?
Peace and blessings. I am well, and glad to be here. Instead of trolling in the chat like I always do, and you know, ready to have this conversation.
And our special guest, all the way from Baltimore, Doctor, and our brother Asar. How you doing today, brother?
Blessings. Feeling blessed to be here. Thanks for having me, and I'm ready for the conversation.
Absolutely. As y'all can see, we got two Dejed pillars in the house today, so I had to distinguish them. Both named after great Netra Asar. So I will pose this to start it off. You know, in you guys' analysis, what are some things that are critical to understanding this FBA phenomenon? I'll start with you, Brother Sean.
Well, in understanding it, you have to realize who the author of the ignorance is, because they wear many hats. And then you have to understand that you're going to hear some things that you probably won't find the evidence for. And therefore, you know, you have to consider all things when listening to these people, because they'll lead you in the wrong direction or misinterpret history, or probably try to sell you something in the long run.
Understood. Brother Osir, same question posed to you.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat it?
What are some critical things one must understand this FBA ADOS phenomenon that we're dealing with?
All right. Well, I would first say that it is a multi-stream, very nuanced situation. In that, to understand what is going on, you have to on one level understand history in terms of recent history within the last 400 to 500 years, to understand the transatlantic slave trade, to understand Europeans coming out of their dark ages, kicking Muslims out and trying to get to trade outposts in India, and how that all sets up a series of events here in the United States. So that's on one level. Then you got to understand on a second level the enslavement of African people and the means and methods that the colonizers used to maintain the hegemony over the enslaved Africans in all regions of North and South America. And so that leads to the third tier in terms of the psychological effects of the enslavement process and the continued onslaught and assault on African people, especially the African mind, and subsequently African culture. And so part of that enslaving process was the devaluing of African people, African life, African values, African customs, African languages. And so when you have a population that is born into a system but don't have a historic memory of their African selves, then they are vulnerable to a lot of misinformation about themselves. And so we have had a lot of adopting of other people's cultures and things to that nature, trying to find ourselves in many respects. So, for example, a lot of us found uh, identity within the Bible and claiming that we are the lost children of Israel because we identify with an enslavement process. So allegedly they were enslaved in Egypt. And so we saw something similar. And so that became a point of reference for a lot of us. So fast forward. In terms of FBA specifically, you have to understand, one, social media, two, any and everybody having access to microphones and cameras, and everybody having an opinion about realities in which they have not studied. As a result of ongoing conversations about the origins of hip hop culture and some other some other conversations going back and forth between uneducated continental Africans, uneducated Africans in America, and uneducated people in the Caribbean, all getting on social media and trying to have a conversation which requires education about history, culture, language, for which none of these individuals have. And so it created a social atmosphere of animosity towards each other, to where they feel that they have to delineate because of various alleged perspectives and opinions about each other that don't exist, or only exist in a very minute part of any one of these particular communities. So it's a wide range of things that you have to understand. You just can't say FBA in a kind of isolated conversation. Is all part of a broader context where we have to go back to slavery and then juxtapose it and put it in its proper timeline.
Understood. Same question posed to you, Dr. Asar. Dr. Asar, if you're talking to us, you on mute. Okay, you say give him 1 second.
That was a good take, Asar. I mean, we'll see it.
Just to let you know that I will be having my turmeric tea.
Oh, wait a
in
minute.
my custom.
Hold on. Hey, man.
So I don't want somebody to get jealous on this podcast. You know what I'm saying? Hey,
jealous in about 2 days.
My girl bought me this. First of all, my girl bought me this before I even knew you.
That ain't even smoke coming out that cup. That's
it didn't even. And just in case it was, you were confused. They made sure that they printed it on the back too, in bold letters. So I don't want to hear. You can't see it, but there's also the logo inside of the cup of the Black Panther. So I'm just saying that This
you got
is,
the heart-shaped herb in there in the tea.
heart-shaped
That's
herb.
what you
So
got?
the conversation is about to get, fiery. But I ain't gonna take no more this time.
I think I need some of that. So that can knock some of this code out of me. But look, I appreciate the question. And I appreciate you letting me go last because I am working with a deficit a bit, and I took some notes. Some things that I think is essential to understand is that I think we have to look at this through the lens of our elder scholars, our ancestral scholars. Like, this is not new. And somehow the people who have joined the forces of what they call FBA, who used to call themselves Pan-Africanists or African Senate, who are now upset, angry, I think we have to understand this as a form of psychological warfare. I think that Baba Asa G. Hilliard said it really well. And let me say this. I think we have to have a systems analysis when we look at this, because it's not like we've been trained for this. We've been trained very well. I mean, all of our scholars from Dr. Newton to Dr. Wells and to Dr. Amos Wilson this is not new. And I want to say that because we know this on this particular panel here, is those brothers and sisters who are falling victim to it, who somehow forgot that our ancestors, elders, and scholars have taught us this, and not to fall for this, and not to fall for the pointing back and forth in the anecdotal evidence that they create, not even create, that they have to support their vicious attack on African people worldwide. So, all right. So Dr. SG here said that using game theory, we have to understand there's creators, advocates, players, and pawns. And lots of the people that find themselves within this, I would say they're advocates and below. They don't even understand the madness they got themselves caught up with due to their anger, hurt, and pain. So again, I think we have to look into a psychological analysis. And I'm gonna just go on and say we must understand, because they say it's a neutral lineage. Just because they say it's a neutral lineage doesn't mean it's that. In fact, I will give them the authorship to use the word lineage the way that they're using it, although they're misusing it until they properly define it, operationalize it, and all that type of thing. But they can't do such because they say there's no ideology. And there's no such thing, I want to be really clear, there's no such thing as an identity that came about without any political, ideological component or necessity. There's no reason to create a thing unless there's a political reason to do so. So that's what I want to be very clear on. I also want to be clear that political identity is working in the name of white supremacy. That it is operating at the advocate level. And they also operate in sub-oppressors. Those in the leadership positions who say they're not leaders, just because they say they're not leaders doesn't mean they're not leaders. In fact, just because you say you're not a leader doesn't mean that you're not a leader. In fact, your website and in your social media platforms can call you an influencer. Let's go with that. You're an influencer. Let's change the word up. You at least identify as an influencer. And two, you cannot say that you are not a leader. I say at least say you're a thought leader, an influencer, and you are influencing the minds and behinds of our people in an ill way. And I'll say again, I just want to say it's white supremacy, that it has an ideology, although they say it's not. It's just they try to say it's just this neutral identity. They don't even want to say it's identity. They say it's just a neutral lineage, that whatever that is. And that's what I got for right now.
Understood. His brother Kofi has admonished people, please share the show. So we get the more people, the more eyes on it, much as possible. When you just said that, Dr. Asar, it reminded me of another leader that said that, he wasn't in charge of something that was a critical moment in American history. when those group of people ran up on those government buildings and did what they did that day, there was a critical leader that day that galvanized them to do that. and then did not join them on the battlefield. We all know who that leader is.
Right.
So it just reminded me of that when you said that. I think that's one of the new tactics that these influencers use. You're like, well, it's not my thing, when you're galvanizing, pushing, and spearheading the information constantly. But in order to avoid the responsibility, you have to say, well, it's not me. It's kind of like a virtual LLC, if you will. So we don't come after you. We come after the product. But I want to ask you, you guys, because this particular word is triggering to me. But I want y'all thoughts on it. I don't know. I'm about to go. What do you hear when you hear the word tether? Start with you, Brother Sean.
Yeah. When I hear the word, I think about the way Europeans were once referring to it, and then there's an urban influence on the word. And so if you correlate the two, it's disrespectful in a sense, especially the way that they try to use that to gaslight those of us who are not only African-centered or quote unquote, the argument that they love to throw out, Pan-African, to a bunch of people who can't even define what Pan-African is. So they like to point in the direction of people in the Caribbeans, and then they want to point in the direction of quote unquote the Pan-African in the sense. So when I hear it, it's a triggering word used to gaslight us and try to bait us into a different conversation than we should have versus sticking to the point, because that's their way of fighting their fight.
Understood. Brother Brother Osir, same question.
Honestly, I have no idea. So I really don't have a response. So, I can get a sense of what they're trying to say in it, but I've just never took the time to really, because it's one of those things where I'm hearing some definitions, but they're conflicting, or they're just not precise enough, So, but I just never took the time to really dive into that word. So I don't have an honest opinion at this point.
Understood. Same question.
Yeah. I think about this website that is ridiculous. I think about the FBA, Foundational Black American website, which is officialfba.com, and all the vitriol that it has written in it. The website speaks to their very short-sighted ideology, philosophy, if you want to call it that. It speaks about that website there, yes. And I can't remember if they define tether in general, but I do know that they differentiate they do speak about tether, and they said that it is a person that is an immigrant, African immigrant. And I think about it, like they put so much energy into African immigrants across the diaspora and the continent, but more specifically, those real black countries. If you really think about it, they don't talk about the Europeans as much as they talk about the blacks. Like they like it's like this quiet allegiance. Also, they do talk about those in maybe the UK, but not as much as they talk about those who come from places that are majority black. I think about them as being very disingenuous in their usage of this term, and what they try to say it is, they try to say it's it's an immigrant that comes to this country that's black who tries to reap our benefits and treat us in a negative manner, or see us in a negative manner and reap the benefits and hard works and labors of African or American black people here, FBA people here. But they go on this website and they talk about you can be a anchored, tethered baby, and that we can't trust these anchored, tethered babies because they might have allegiance to their to dual allegiance. Like, for example, my children are from my wife's from Jamaica, so they say that because my children are perhaps anchored, tethered babies or what have you, they cannot seek leadership in this community unless there's a proven type of track record or something like that. But I say, if it's not an organization, if it doesn't have an ideology, who makes the decisions on who has served us enough to be considered okay to operate if they're anchored, tethered baby? So what I'm saying is, I think it's gaslighting, as a dear brother said earlier. I think is to create images and is psyops, is psychological manipulation of our minds. I think it incites anger, rage, hurt, and pain inside of people. Although they say we only use this and we reserve this for certain people, but the reality is they will call you a tether. I don't know any of y'all backgrounds, but they call me tether. They called me a tether, and my family's from here. So they reserve this word to denigrate anyone who doesn't agree with them. But again, it doesn't have an ideology. But you become a tether even if you are here. So, it's crazy.
The only definition I knew of this word prior to this phenomenon was connecting things to a computer or tethering Wi-Fi. That was the only thing I knew prior to this community. But I too would fall under the guidance of Tether, and people that know Dr. Saul. We recently met, but my father was born in Banjul, Gambia, so I am definitely a Tether, right? So when I heard this, I was like, well, I only know it in the technological sense. Let me go see what Webster's has to say about this word. And they said tie, and in parentheses it says an animal with a rope or chain so as to restrict its movement. Let me be perfectly clear. You call me this to my face, you're gonna have to deal with these hands. I'm just gonna put it out there, because you're not gonna reduce African people to animals. You're not going to reduce our humanity in that manner. So you are perfectly aware that they're talking about animals in the primary definition of this word. And if you continue to use that, that is disrespect on the highest level to me. So, it's cool. You say it online, You say it to me in my face, we're going to have a problem. That's just how I'm built. Go ahead, brother.
Now, what they would say is, you're all not tethers. It's just those who come here and do these certain things, who take the right, who have hostility towards us and also benefit from our hard work. Now, I
like what you said, hands-on training.
Huh?
Sorry, brother. Go ahead.
No, I understand the hurt. That's why I keep saying it's hurt and pain. Because the more they talk, the more, they talk about hurt and pain and shame. And I get it. Not everybody from Africa has been taught to love us, nor has everybody here been taught to love Africans or even our own selves. So I get it. But if you were doing the lessons, again, our people, our ancestors, our elders told us that we are suffering from internalized racism, that we are suffering from miseducation, that we are suffering from all types of things like that, self-hate. So it shouldn't surprise those who understand. But also the literature doesn't show, the research, and I'm going to do a presentation on this, that is bi-directional. And it's not all negative. That there's people from all the Caribbean and the United States and Africa that have these negative views of their brothers and sisters across this world that are Black or African. But it also shows that when you ask the question, where does these ideas and thoughts come from, they report statistically significantly that it comes from white supremacy or white ideas, Eurocentric ideas. So it's not like we can't even quantify where these ideas come from, even though we have them. So we're putting out energy and calling them, we're putting so much energy on people to look like us, but we're trying to align ourselves with the very people who taught them these things. So we can get the biggest crumbs, because I said what they did was they just gave up and said, we have taken our rightful place as servants. We have taken our rightful places we have taken our rightful place as subservient even. And we understand this is our lot in life. So we just want to make sure we get the biggest crumbs because we are on the biggest plantation called the United States of America.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's definitely a phenomenon. It's a conundrum to be. It's just such a mind puzzle when you try to wrap your mind around, aligning yourself with people that have marginalized you historically just to eat the crumbs off their table. It's just so it's mind-boggling. But my next question is, do you see a significant difference between ADOS and FBA in your conversations in the community? Brother Sean, I'll start with you.
Yeah, there are differences. I believe that Yvette and Tone's initiative was driven by a different car off the backs of a different organization prior to that. Whether right, wrong, or indifferent, they were looking to shape or refrain from using Africa. So the descendants of slaves, which is what we would be, according to how they looked at us historically, through their ethnology, anthropology, or cultural anthropology, they would hint at, here's the African, here's the child of the African, the slave, and here are the children of the slave, which would be the freedmen. You know what I'm saying? So now you have the hijack, you have the pandemic hit, and as not a coincidence, in the chat calls them, he calls them the COVID Indians. They would hijack and insert themselves into that. So what initially would start off with Yvette and Tone and a political agenda was hijacked during the pandemic and sold into people by an opportunist who was looking for a way to continue to pimp the game, rightfully so. And then in that pimping the game, the development of the Aboriginals and now the Indigenous Moors and all these splinter factors will congregate up into one and try to latch themselves onto the ideology of Tariq Nasheed's movement, which would be separate. It is not political. It is not it didn't have the notion of Yvette and Tone's original position and stance. So it's more so a social media thing. It's a social media movement.
Mm-hmm.
And in that social media movement, that's what makes what Dr. Sarr said earlier, just call yourselves influencers, because that's all you've been doing the entire pandemic, was using historical references and documents about the past, and then spin them to a people to create these narratives. And outside of that, you get these other people that latch onto it. That's why you see the Dane Callaways. You see the other people that I argue with more, which is out of the whole quote unquote autochthonous, indigenous, aboriginal community. They latch on to Tariq's FBA things because he say a lot of anti-African rhetoric in that. And you really didn't hear a lot of anti-African rhetoric out of Event Tone, even though there were some questionable things in that. But that's the way I see it. But they are definitely not the same, and one's just a hijack of the other. You're on mute.
Well,
But that
for me,
same question posed to Brother Osir.
yeah, in terms of a difference, I mean, there's a difference without much distinction, right? Like it's gotten to the point where some people are using them interchangeably, right? Because they both agree with they fundamentally agree on the fact that they do not see themselves as African people. That's what they unite on, regardless to what political differences may or may not exist. Because within both of these movements, it's like the church. It has 1,000 denominations, in many gods, basically. And so, without having to do a deep dive into what groups exist and putting them into, further categories. For me, ultimately, we have to look at this. Well, I ain't gonna say we have to, but I look at this from a research and educational and pedagogical standpoint. So I know Dr. Asar, he approaches this in a kind of social psycho, not psycho, but like psychology. What I'm saying, social psycho perspective, but I'm looking at this from the standpoint of an educator, right? And just certain skill sets that don't exist in a lot of these people who are purporting these particular views, because you have to be a good scholar to make certain arguments in the public. And a lot of these individuals don't know how to do scholarship. And as I was telling in a private conversation with Dr. Asar some time ago, that when I listen to these arguments, you can tell that a lot of these people don't read beyond a 6th and 8th grade education. And they have a hard time understanding nuance and timelines and continuities, right? Like, for example, for some reason, like people don't understand that the Africans who were first enslaved here in the United States, started in 1619, right? There wasn't a whole bunch of people that came, and then they stopped bringing Africans over here in the United States. It was an ongoing back and forth of ships bringing back Africans from all over the continent. that is very important to the discourse in terms of culture development and cultural retentions. Because there's no time in history in which these Africans did not understand that they were African people. And it was reinforced because even if you was on a plantation or in the house, they're bringing new Africans over. And these are Africans who only speak their native language. They had to learn English, or they had interpreters. Like if you saw the movie or the series Roots, you've seen several times where these new Africans would come on the plantation, and they would have to have one of the enslaved Africans who still spoke the native language to be able to get the new African up to speed, so to speak. This is important because all the way until the mid 1800s, when these Africans were being brought here to the United States, they're bringing culture, they're bringing ideas, and all of this stuff is meshing here in the United States. So what's happening in these ADOS and FBA conversations is that they're trying to take credit and say that a lot of this stuff that becomes so-called African-American culture just appeared out of nowhere, or it was Native American culture, and it has nothing to do with Africa, right? And if, we get to a point where we can share screen, I would like to, share my screen at some point later and to give just such an example of how the Africanness is integrated into something that becomes major, that started this whole conversation in the first place when it comes to hip hop culture. But I'll just stop there.
Absolutely. Same question posed to you, Dr. Asar.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I appreciate you giving me the backstory of your paternal line, because, I think that's essential, because people say that we don't exist. We don't work together. People don't, we're not, I think that sometimes we think when we come in the room, we can just look at black people and say, you're African, you're not, like we just like, I just had to put that there. Like, how do you know who's first and second, especially second generation? You can't even tell. Like, so what are you taught them? I mean, like, culturally, that you become a part of the culture, so you move the same, you talk the same, you dress the same. So yeah. So anyway, I think I don't want to be. I was just sitting here writing notes, and I'm thinking, when I think ADOS, like, this just could be, I could be wrong, but when I think ADOS, I think miseducated. When I think FB, I think undereducated. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I would say they're not too much different. I mean, because I just think Yvette Carnell and them a lot more better with misconstruing data in studies and research, and they know how to do it a bit more scholastically, seemingly scholastic. That's a better way of saying it. They misuse and they abuse Africans. They know they do it better than Tariq. It's just the problem is they're not as funny as Tariq. See, one group they're the same people. One group attracts people who think they like reading books and stuff. The other one attracts people who don't like to read books, or they like to read fiction books. One misconstrues data, I put here, and the other one makes up myths. So Tariq Nasheed makes up myths. They have several strands of the FBA too. If you had to ask me, if I was to choose one, I would not choose any of them, but I would choose ADOS, because they really look. I can listen to ADOS. I can listen to ADOS and learn something. I can listen to ADOS and learn something. That's a difference, but they still have the same goal: to cause division and destruction in our community. I say that FBA is the bootleg version of ADOS. So why not go to ADOS? At least they sound intelligent. At least that you can learn a few things. At least, the people, like, I get it because they don't beat up on people quite as harsh as Tariq, but they do beat up on people. They do, and before there was a Tariq, and all the rest of them, I won't even say their names. There was Yvette, who beat the hell out of Africans and Caribbeans, and she did it with so-called data and facts, and she misconstrues all types of data to work on her behalf, on behalf of ADOS. So the short answer is there's not much difference.
And Sean is gonna back me up on this because when ADOS popped up on the scene, I believe it was around 2015. I was in Saudi Arabia, and I noticed on then Twitter, before being renamed X, that Tariq was bigging up everything they were saying. He was bigging it up. We hadn't heard from Tariq for a while. This was after Hidden Colors 3. We hadn't heard from him, and he was bigging them up. And I said to Sean and my brother Kofi and my other brothers in the OC, I said, he gonna steal their shit, right? Did I not say that, Sean?
Wow.
I said, he's stealing their shit.
Oh, yeah.
This happened.
Yes, you said it. Several times said it.
I kept saying it. I said, if they don't squash him now, they gonna have a problem on their hands. And they welcomed him in and said, "Oh yeah, boy, brother, and you united." I said, "Uh-oh." I said he's gathering information.
Oh boy.
and because Tariq doesn't give credit to anyone else unless he has an agenda. And his agenda was to hijack their movement. If people remember, ADOS, as other brothers have said, was more politically motivated. They were hedging their bets on Cory Booker winning the Democratic nomination. They not remember that. It was on their website. They were gonna put pressure on Cory Booker for their plan of reparations. So now we have a distinct distinction, right? Because what are you getting reparations for? What do you need reparations for if you're not if you're not tied to African people? So they were going to put pressure on Cory Booker if he won the Democratic nomination. And when he didn't win the Democratic nomination, they kind of lost a lot of their steam. That and Tariq hijacking their movement is why we have some of the problems we have today. Man, I got this brother Rye is killing me in the chat because brother, I know this brother been around for a minute because he's bringing up some stuff I ain't even thought about in years, and I want to segue into Tariq is a chameleon. So he just put this up, and I'm gonna put this up in the chat. And others may not know this, but this brother used to have a Moore app because Tariq used to be a Moore. If you know where the Moore Science Temple communities were in your state, that was the app. That was the app. So after the pimping and macking stopped paying the bills, I'm not even gonna comment on whatever that Mink slide was that he made, that song that was god awful. He went to the Moors. He was riding with the Moors. And when that stopped paying the bills, Pan-Africanism was the new rave, and he had all of our elders, on his DVDs. Am I still choppy?
You've been kind of. On my end, you've been kind of a little laggy.
A little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Try right. But after the Hidden Colors thing, you can move on to the next thing that's gonna pay the bills. And when you don't have anything that's based in longevity, you got to keep riding waves. So that's how I knew he was gonna steal Ado's stuff because it's the thing, baby. It's time to ride another wave, and unfortunately, our brothers and sisters, just fall for the banana in the tailpipe, so to speak. And like you said, bro, Dr. Asar, our elders have already prepared us for this. And we knew when this came on the scene what it was. But there are people that haven't done their lessons and their studies that they thinking this is new. They're thinking this is something, oh man, this is the brand new thing that, I want to be a part of this. No, it's been brothers way back when have tried to distance themselves from African people that are blacker than the night sky. It's always going to be that. It's always going to be those people. Go ahead, brother.
My brother Jabari, that turf Survivor Nations and Reality Speak here in Baltimore, he says, put it to me like this. And I like the way he framed it. He said, they just the new Negroes. And I thought, it sounds so simple, but it's like they're more the same. They're just the new Negroes. Like most black people are miseducated. Most of us are miseducated, suffering with some level of internalized whatever, and we haven't done research or studies or whatever. But yeah, he just said simply they're the new Negroes.
Mm-hmm. I put it more like they are the flat earthers of identity, right? It is again. It comes back, as stated. We since the early 1900s, with the publishing of the Miseducation of the Negro, right? We've understood what miseducation can do, and unfortunately, I said in a previous podcast that sometimes I have to check myself because I have to recognize my own privilege, right? I had the privilege to take Africana Studies in undergrad. I've had the privilege to study under various esteemed scholars throughout the years. I've had the privilege to research and publish in various publications on these particular subjects. So sometimes I can get in my head and be like, you don't know this? I thought everybody knew this. But you have to remember that, first of all, not the vast majority of us don't go to college, period. For those that do go to college, there's not many Africana studies programs and departments in proportion in relation to universities and stuff everywhere. So you can go to a university. Like when I was at Southwest Texas State University, we had no African American studies program, no African studies program. We had to create organizations on campus and then create study groups to learn our own history. We would meet on Wednesdays. There was a group called what's it? No, I created Umoja at the University of Houston, but the alphas the alphas had got kicked off the yard for hazing, but they still wanted to get programming going. So they split up and created new organizations for the general public, right? And one was Black Men United. There was a theater group, and then we had a study group for learning Black history, right? Now, I don't know if that happens on other campuses that don't have Black Studies, but at Southwest Texas State University, now Texas State University, that's what we had to do. And so as a student organization, you can get funding and you can use that to bring scholars in. So they would bring Anthony Browder, Naeem Akbar, et cetera, onto the campus, right? But even still in this day and age, because anytime you have progress in this country, there's a large European force trying to counter anything that you created. So even though we've created these Black Studies programs and departments all over the United States, although still in small numbers, they're fighting to get rid of them. And so some have gone, some have merged, or some have drastically reduced the number of classes you can take, right? So you know, with the attack on Afrocentricity, very hard in the 90s, and of course the new thing was critical race theory, right? They do all of this to devalue the education that African people provide for other African people. And so this is important because even the ones that are coming into these spaces, there's a large chance that they're not taking these fundamental basic courses, introduction to Black Studies courses, and reading these texts and know of these particular scholars and know how to do research and where to go find valid information and how to critically analyze these different things. So not only that, there's been a decline in the lecture circuit, right? The independent communiversity. When our elders used to just go around the country trying to bring academia to the community, right? So a lot of that has been reduced. And of course, our elders were getting old and dying off. There's no more Asa Hilliers. There's no more John Henry Clarks. There's no more Dr. Benz, Francis Cress Welslings, right? All they know now is Dr. Umar and Tariq Nasheed, right? Because they've been able to utilize this space in a way that our elders couldn't back in the day. And so there was a knowledge vacuum in the social space. And of course, the most sensational stuff is what a lot of the people gravitate to. And this is how we're in this position. That's why I said you got to look at it holistically. FBA is predictable, knowing what we know in terms of the level of education, the continued onslaught against Africans teaching themselves. Then you got to juxtapose that with religion here in this country that are naturally anti-African. So they may have joined a Moorish movement. They may have joined a Hebrew Israelite movement. They may just be Christian. They may just be Muslims. And all of these entities are anti-Black, anti-African. They may not be anti-Black in the case of like Nation of Islam, right? But their Blackness leads all the way back to Arabia. Well, we're the original Arabs, but don't want to identify with Africa, right? And of course, Christianity, anything that Africans do is a sin in the Bible. People don't even know it's a sin in the Bible to draw anything that has any resemblance in nature. All these Christians, Black Christians with pictures of and paintings of human beings, of trees, all that is a sin in the Bible. That's an anti-African thing because Africans like to reflect nature. They use nature as a teaching tool, as a pedagogical tool. And so, you know, this I can't look at FBA as just, a thing isolated unto itself, as it existed in a vacuum. It's the culmination of all these particular factors, all starting just with miseducation and self-hate and Eurocentric thought. And this is just the FBA is just the latest iteration of that.
Mm-hmm.
They even think that they're separating themselves. So, and I'll end with this, and I'm sorry for taking so long. We call ourselves African American. We ain't got nothing to do with Africans. So we're going to replace the term African American with foundational Black American. They're saying that they were taking African because Africans can come over here into this country, and because they're from Africa, they can claim to be African American. So what do they do in their genius 6th grade reading level selves? They say we're foundational Black Americans. That'll stop them. Not understanding that these Africans are Black too. So they would, if you just say you call yourself a Black American, anybody from Jamaica, anybody from Senegal, anybody from South Africa, our brothers and sisters from Brazil come over here, they Black, and they become citizens or born here, they're Black Americans. So what are you going to do now? It's a difference without distinction. And this is why I can't rock with them. It's like, y'all don't even think critically. And we're sitting here arguing over nomenclatures, which are as if, like, for example, there's maps. They say that, we didn't call ourselves African, we called ourselves Negro. There's whole maps of Africa from the 1700s that have Negro land on it. Where do you think the Negro came from? I'll stop there because I might cuss.
I think Dr. Asar hit on something, and you did too, brother Osir, about religion piece. A lot of these anti-African sentiments, a lot of this, philosophy, we have to deal with the religion piece. And it goes back to they have a lot of white Christian nationalist talking points. A lot of them. The more you listen, the more they sound like Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk, and the circuit of people that have dedicated their lives to getting the crumbs from white supremacy. So you just got to start looking around and going, oh, this all makes sense. Everything we do in your programming, which is your foundation, your religion, is anti-African. Now you have adopted an ideology that is anti-African, and you want to distance yourself away from, your real lineage as much as possible. It all lines up. They all pick things that line up with their anti-African sentiments. And some people, we can educate. Other brothers, you just got to let go. I just, some people, unfortunately. You on mute, Asar.
Oh, no, I'm not. I didn't say anything. No, I mean, well,
I'm sorry.
Is on mute. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. My bad. What I'll say is that I have a quick question, but not necessarily a question, but a proposal for this. This isn't directed at Dr. Asar, but of somebody who has a psychological background and likes to do research in terms of looking at how FBA, in terms of their rhetoric, parallels with a lot of the white rural, like MAGA and others of that ilk, who try to say, like, the immigrants are taking our jobs and the da 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 da. Like, what are the common factors between these two groups
It's very
that
similar.
that they have these same responses to perceived, I guess, decline in their opportunities and value in this particular country. I think that somebody should do that. I don't have time because I don't care about FBA that much. But I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I think is there. I've even done this when I compare just politically the type of mind that is more of a right wing type of person, like people in the right versus the left. Whereas people on the right, they typically fear based. They're scarcity based. They follow a scarcity model. They are very rigid in their ideas. They have a them against us mentality, all or nothing mentality. They operate out of a place of fear. That's the major piece, and that's what people do when they have not resolved trauma. So basically, when we really try to talk sense into people, it sounds more like a threat. So in essence, the more you shed light in front of them, the more they feel like you're trying to set them up. You know how it is when you're trying to talk to even us who come into a certain level of consciousness, and when we first become immersed in it, anything white, even white T-shirts, become our enemy. So it's kind of similar. They operate in a very rigid, closed-minded, lower brain, limbic region type of reality. And what does that mean? That means they operate out of fight and flight. They're always feeling like somebody's coming to take their stuffers. They need healing. I'm being real on. I'm not joking when I say it. Lots of people think like this, and they might be. In fact, there's some neurological wiring that can be taking place. Some of us are way more rigid in the way that our brains are developed, and those type of people are more likely to gravitate towards right-wing politics where they lack empathy. They lack empathy. And when you lack empathy, you can't put yourself in other people's shoes. You can't see nuance. You struggle with seeing the whole picture because the only pieces you look for are the pieces that like when you are operating in fight and flight, you're not able to see everything. You're only looking for the threat. And if there's no threat there, you will make one.
So
one thing that I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, what is some common literature that comes out of this community that is used to facilitate these talking points? I'll start with you, Brother Sean.
No literature exists. It's all.
I was about to say.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
They gotta be using something. They gotta be using
I'm sorry.
something.
Go ahead. Let me put myself on mute.
No, there are books. There are books. I can't remember them because Yvette Carnell and when you talking about ADOS, that's why I said they're more. They utilize a lot. They used to read. I'm not sure if they still read, but they used to do books like Germs and Warfare, and they used to read a lot. But I don't have the books off the top of my head. I was trying to really look it up. They even have ADOS even has their own pseudoscientific books because the sister sent it to me. I don't know why she felt like I wanted to read an ADOS book. I mean, like I'm like literally she got red black. I don't understand it, but nonetheless, I mean, again, people don't the followers don't read as much as the people who are leading them. I'm not, they and that's how they manipulate them. But anyway, go ahead. Y'all got the books. But I do know ADOS they used to read. But FBA for sure, I don't think I think they look, I know people that's in FBA. And I've seen them go from one organization to the next organization to the next organization and the next organization. They're angry. And they typically fall into these really right-wing. I mean, I'm just going to throw this one out here. I've seen people go from Irritated Genie stuff to this thing. And Irritated Genie is now, I mean, he's doing things with the, what's the white KKK man?
Dennis Duke or
David Duke. David Duke.
David Duke.
And now Irritated Genie is running for office here in Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah, did I tell you that, Sean? You know
what I mean? So what I'm saying is, and he's saying that so I'm just trying to give you the mindset, the conspiracy type of mindsets. You know, everything from, I mean, everybody's their enemy. You got to realize look, I'm not saying there's no agendas, but what I'm saying is they go from one agenda, the LGBTQ agenda, to the small hat agenda, to the African, anti-African, Pan-African agenda. They always have to have a enemy. I'm not saying there's no such thing. Some of these things aren't real. But what I am saying is they blow them up. Because there's a lot of money and a lot of power. When you can keep people in states of fear, they will do anything for you. They'll be on this very chat fighting for Tariq more than his wife. Grown men.
This is why, you know, as I said in the previous conversation, that, you know, I don't want to give white people any credit for nothing, even for being white. But you know, I'm an honest person, so I gotta give credit where credit is due, because, you know, even though they didn't have, you know, an accurate assessment of African people, one thing that they knew about their people, though, is that you cannot give our people full democratic control of the country, which is why they don't have a fully democratic country. It's a republic, republic form of government. And essentially they was like, the public is too ignorant to fully have control over government because, of course, of mob mentality and groupthink. And if you like, even when you think about, for example, like the so-called fine arts, why aren't the vast majority of the country into the fine arts? Why does the fine arts have to be supplemented in terms of by governments, in terms of museums and all this other kind of stuff? Because the vast majority of the people, why is the real hip hop the minority hip hop? Why is the baddies in, you know, all of the reality TV the thing? Why does the most ignorant stuff? Why when we saw, you know, people like Malcolm X and, you know, Paul Robeson and others, we didn't in masses, you know, try to emulate them. But as soon as the Mac came out, right, we wanted to be pimps and whores. Colors come out, everybody want to be Crips and Bloods, right? Like, so on some level, what I'm trying to convey here is that we have to be conscious of just the general public's ability and desire to want higher knowledge and the like, and the ability to work for, because reading takes a lot of energy. Even though you're sitting still, it still takes brain power because you have to read between the lines. You got to pause and have conversations with yourself. You got to put that book down to go pick up another book because they reference something in passing, but now you're curious. So now I got to go read this book to understand this paragraph. Right? It's a process. And the second law of thermodynamics always talks about everything trying to fall down to an equilibrium where there's no movement and motion. It's the most minimalist. And that's just how the general population is. So the question then being, how much can we expect without being condescending to the general population? I can't see on my phone what that says, but
oh my!
Tyreek wrote a book. He's selling it on the website.
What is this? What's the title?
That's the one book on the website. Tariq Nasheed, Foundational Black American Race Beta. My journey into understanding systemic racism.
I got to see this.
You want me to put on the screen?
Oh, yeah.
There's the book.
That's the book that she sent you?
No. That's I just remembered that when I went over the website that there was a book there, and there's the book. That's part of their philosophy, the ideology that they don't have. I forgot
a source in the damn book.
I have to put that with alongside Polite's books.
All 1,000 of them.
And then in this day and age, be like, did he write it or did he chat GPT some things? One of y'all going to have to sacrifice, be the sacrificial lamb, and get the book.
And I like how we said the book.
But because I'm not mad at that because if he's the founder of a particular ideology and movement, there has to be a definitive text that outlines, what the movement is, its history, and the like, right? So I'm not surprised at that.
Magnum opus right there.
Yeah, So nobody can say as other than what he said. But then you're gonna have the conflict of those where he's not our leader. And da 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 da. And so, how do you deal with that when you have a definitive text out now from the leader?
But I do want to say this. I guess I'm going back. They do say in the ideology that if you were here before 1970 and you are an immigrant, it's highly likely due to a different disposition back then that you will be accepted in this community and less likely to be a tether. So that safeguards Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, and all those people. And I guess some of, maybe your parents and people like that, if they were here before 1970.
These are some slim ass rules. I'm just going to put that out there. These rules.
No, they moving the goalposts because it's certain arguments that you can't make.
Yeah.
Because if you outside of just the Caribbean folks, right? Mm-hmm. If you totally discount the Africans and the African influences, this is why you got to go by and give the historical examples. Once you take away that, what is your culture? What is the FBA's language? What is your original style of dress? How did your so-called FBA foundational black pretendians, how did y'all handle marriage? What is your word for love in your language?
Oh.
What products did you put in your hair? Where did you grow the juices and berries?
Mm-hmm.
What was the herbs that you used? What was it called in your FBA language? Because you can't use none of those languages from the so-called Siberian migrants that came later, since we've always been here, right? Like, these are the kinds of questions you have to ask them. What was your style of dress? What was this bird called? What was your general word for trees in your language? How did y'all survive the onslaught of European diseases, but all the other Indians took large losses? How did y'all know when hurricanes were coming? Where did you hunt to, buffalo to make clothing? What was the clothing called? Where are the artifacts? Where are your paintings of yourselves and drawings? Where's your cave art? Fundamental anthropological, paleontological questions. Because we can trace with the Africans and what we brought here, we have whole text written on this, Africanisms in American culture, the Bantu heritage of the United States, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
From the time of W.B. Du Bois, ongoing scholarship at the university level. They even had whole debates to what degree did Africans retain their culture. That's what gave birth to the Africanisms in American culture text. Because there was academic debates. Because some say we lost everything and we had to start anew. And then others are showing evidence of retentions. And so in many respects, it's really the same debate. But they're coming from the standpoint of powerlessness. I can't see what that is.
Yeah, that's on the website. I'm gonna bring it back up.
And
that's a text.
It talks about language a bit, and it talks about this is a holiday, FBA holiday. So I want to, and they also posthumously bring in people, as you're saying, So they posthumously bring in everybody. So when you read here, it speaks about I can never say the word. Maybe that's the language. You're the linguist, so maybe you can pronounce that. But it's Eritsusi or something. means arrive in foundational Black American Toot language. And
I've heard
the Tut language.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I heard it.
Yeah. So yeah, I looked up. There's some legitimacy there, but I'm just saying. So this is the best they got right now.
But it's still stupid because
do they know
what language family does it belong to? What's the phonology of the language? What linguist in the early 1600s?
That's like 18th century. But enslaved Africans
created that. Of course, they're trying to claim Gullah Geechee as indigenous FBA.
Oh,
I'm like, the word Gullah is Angola.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
They don't have to
do that.
They don't have an existence.
That dog is not gonna hunt. I would advise you turn around. It ain't no winds down that street with that Tut language. Ain't no winds down that street.
Ain't no winds down there.
No, man. Like
I don't know much about it.
I'm telling you.
I wanted to.
They've already codified Tut language as Ave. Like you're
Ave.
already dead in the water. We already know the influence of Ave. Like that's a done deal. Like don't do that. That's you're gonna embarrass yourself.
Tell me, what is that? I don't. I'm not following. I'm not the linguist person.
Ave is African American vernacular English. It's basically what we used to call. Yeah, what we used to call Ebonics before they.
Okay, African American. Okay,
term for it. And it's.
I've never heard anybody say it like that. Okay.
Not knowing that somebody said, I was reading some comment somewhere where they was trying to, because of course they're disassociating with the term or the phrase African American. So they're not like, we don't speak African American vernacular English. We're not Africans. It's ebony phonics. I'm like, ebony's an African word, right? It's a word for a tree in Africa, and it's a dark colored tree. That's where the term comes from.
Yeah.
That's what that's why I say the language is always going to betray you.
Yeah, they make biphone necklaces out of ebony wood.
Yeah, it's in the ancient Egyptian language. It's missing like for those of you who can transliterate ancient Egyptian, it's capital H. It's the H with the dot under it. BNY. It's more like Habani, ebony, but when it came into the European languages, the H was dropped. The dotted H was dropped. So that's why we say ebony. It's an African tree, and this is why the term came to be associated with us, the African Americans. But so it's crazy, and I wanted to, as I mentioned earlier, if y'all allow. But I've been talking a little bit, so if anybody else has something to say, I'll just come back after another round.
I'll say this. I just want to be really, just be honest with you. Like, I might be seeing some humor in this, but I really don't. I really do not see humor in it. It can, it's kind of like one of those things like you can laugh at it, but it really hurts. You know what I mean? And I'm not fighting FBA or those who identify as FBA. The fight is if it feels like any fight, sometimes the intervention is supposed to be a slap to wake you up. And sometimes it needs to be gentle. Sometimes you get it wrong. You don't know when to slap or when to be gentle. But what I do know is they aren't my enemies. I do want to say again and echo that our elders, as we said various times on this panel, have already taught us better than this. If you studied the lessons, if you studied our scholars, if you studied at all, especially our scholars, our African Black Senate scholars, if you study the research, if you study literature that's not even, or research or journals about the way that people engage with one another, their attitudinal dispositions in group and out group, you will see that what's happening here as it relates to how Black people see, in America, see Black people in Jamaica and Cuba and different places, that there's no great significant difference. So to elevate it to such a degree that we look at them so much more favorable is an error, is a lie. And to what degree we do seem to favor other people a bit more sometimes, it's also because we have to realize I keep trying to paint this picture. We are in the big house. Everybody wants to be us. In fact, there will be, when you in the big house, when you got the best bike on the block, your friends love you, but they be like, yeah, they be a little, sometimes you can bring about some haters. So we have to be able to use logic here. But even with all that we have here at our avail, there's no research out here that shows that this is not bi-directional self-hate and miseducation that goes on that you see about in social media. And just another thing, when we are playing these videos of Somalians and their heads and all this type of thing, I'm just saying, so these are supposed to be your leaders. Your leaders are taking and mocking people, and the fact that you put out 155 videos that say to have a Somali brother and sister say they're not black. If you knew any better, you would know that most people outside of the United States don't even utilize these racial terms as such. They don't even many times don't know the term as much the way that you know it until they get here. And it takes them some time to get here and understand the way that this system is stratified in the United States. I have this in my classes all the time. Brothers and sisters from the continent and from the Caribbean, their worldview, the way that they have been conditioned where they're from is a bit different. So they don't see black is the dominant thing. You have to really teach them that when they get here. And I do it every day with master's and PhD students from these different places. In fact, when you talk about this guy, Frank Zanou, people talking about culture, most people don't know what culture is in the first place. Most of us don't even know what culture is because the very thing we keep saying is, oh yeah, they operate in our culture. Look, they talk like us and they dance like us and they wear clothes like and that's where you limit culture. That's how, as far as you go with culture. And the fact that you don't even understand what culture is, you would think somebody else understands that you have culture. And then the fact that you say you don't have culture, you think that somebody else won't say you don't have culture. It's okay to say you don't have culture yourself until somebody else say you don't have culture. The reality is most of us don't know what culture is. I teach master and PhD students every day, and most of them don't know what culture is. Even though they've been taught about it. They're social scientists even. And they still have to be reminded about the depth of culture, not just singing and dancing. Not to say singing and dancing is not a part of it, but they have to understand worldview, ontology, even genetics when it comes to how things are passed down for us to survive. Dr. Marimba Anise talks about culture, and I like the way she says it. People often use this other thing, says your immune system, but I also like how she says that culture is ordered behavior. And this ordered behavior is to bring about order amongst chaos and other things like that. So it's what orders your world. So, we have to understand. We don't have to do anything, but what I'm saying is, if we don't understand how different people are, as Brother Asar Imhotep said, or should I say Osir Imhotep said that, and I want to be clear, he's not coming from this Ivy Tower. He says that we need to get back to study groups even. Where are the study groups at? You understand? Where are the communiversities? Not just the university, but the communiversity. Like even here at TNAT, we have communiversities. And I'm looking for everybody on this panel to come and teach at it one day. You know what I mean? But
Absolutely.
We really don't know what culture is. And the communiversity, I'm telling you, one thing I can say about the African Senate community, when you go to, even if what you learn in the community, good, bad, indifferent, when you go to academia, you are advanced.
Indeed. Now there's I made a post on Facebook that I'm going to elaborate at another time, speaking about this very same thing that you're talking about here in terms of people not understanding what culture is.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna be presenting something that is not orthodox and will be the cause for much debate. But I divide culture, or the discussion of culture, into three distinct categories. So you have a a culture or an on culture, or a synonym will be called a go culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just give ethnic groups as examples first. So the ethnic groups that I gave, for example, is like the Yoruba, the San, the Batwa. We can even put the Chinese, in there as well. They have on cultures or go cultures. Then there is what I call an unculture.
Mm-hmm.
And the example of an unculture would be the African American. Then I say there's a no culture or an anti-culture. And those would be individuals like the Jews, the Arabs, and of course the North American whites. They have no culture. And it's an anti-culture. Now, I have a slightly different definition of culture, but it includes fundamentally, because culture has to deal with investment. It is what you put into something with the expectation that it is going to become something greater.
Mm.
So your culture is that which it is a combination of the values, the social rules and taboos, the institutions, right?
Mm-hmm.
That come together, that coalesce together to provide knowledge, wisdom, resources, a safe environment for the individual to become what they need to become, what the community needs for them to become, so that the community can sustain itself and or grow, right? So culture has an ideal human being in mind. And all of these resources and social institutions come together to help the individual come close to the ideal that the ancestors have, for the individual. Right. And so that includes your language, in terms of, what you must have for the culture. You must have a social system that, again, pours into you to create an ideal human being. It is intentional. Culture doesn't happen happenstance. People sit down and organize, as you said. Culture. This is the kind of human being we need. Well, the question is, how do you develop them? So you put together a plan, a life plan for the people in the community. And then you organize around the values and the things that is necessary to bring that about in your community. And so this is what's lacking. This is why we have an unculture here in the United States. We have elements of culture. We have those Africanisms, but it's unorganized. We're too spread out. We're a very large population, but we don't have an ideal human being. What is the African American's ideal human being? And what have we created? What are the values? What are the social systems that we've created to help each person become that ideal? That is not the ideal of some other community. When we go to the no cultures, the anti-cultures, they can't exist without being anti everybody else. That's why when the Arabs and the Jews, in terms of like Christianity culture, Jewish culture, they have to erase your culture and replace it with theirs. because they can't let you live. They can't let you be, because your very existence is a threat to their existence, because our existence points to their or highlights their exploitation, the lack of empathy for other communities. This is why, that's why white culture doesn't have a culture. That's why they have laws and stuff to prevent you from becoming the best human being that you can be. We'll take all the resources from your neighborhood so you don't get a quality education. We'll take all the grocery stores out of your neighborhood so you don't get fresh foods. We'll do everything in our power so that you can't be the best version of yourself. That's what anti-cultures do. And so when we understand these different levels, we can have a serious conversation about the whole FBA, identity, and things of this nature. What are you rallying behind? What is your ideal FBA? And then you got to understand that there's no such thing as a pure culture. Culture is like a Venn diagram. Y'all know what a Venn diagram is? Is you have two big circles, two or more, but to keep it simple, two big circles that overlap to where there's some features on the outside of the end circle or whatnot. Your culture is that which is in the center. But you're borrowing stuff, you're interacting with other cultures. So when people say, they're stealing our slang and stuff like this, have you done a deep dive into the influence of African Americans' language? Like when people say, like, if you go to New York and you hear that so-called New York slang from Black folks, not knowing that a lot of that comes from Italians, a lot of that comes from Jewish folks. Your clothing, where's your clothing come from? Do you think they stopped making clothes once you bought them? Where else did they sell those clothes around the world? Of course they're going to look like the clothes you got. They send them, they sell it around the world because they have a global consciousness, a global sense of industry. That hoodie you got on ain't just sold in your local store on the east side. It's sold in Africa. It's sold in Japan. Where do you think matter of fact, of course, if the Chinese got it, they done bootlegged all the stuff. So they sell it on the underground. There's a lot of things like when we talk about jazz, where do those instruments come from? Where do those piano keys come from? Where did those songs come from? Where did those military cadences come from? Like there's you can take something and fine tune it to your liking, but you borrowed it from somewhere. But FBAs, they try to act like how in the academy, how the universities tried to make the Greeks, the Greek miracle, like they just created philosophy and all this other kind of stuff just out of the blue, out of nowhere. No interactions with Africans, no interactions with people in the Middle East.
Hey, brother, sir,
Go ahead.
you a conceptual genius. I just don't agree with you. But no.
I already said it's gonna be controversial.
No, I'll be a little facetious. I do follow you. Let's say, and I agree with how you're operationalizing it. But we can support, depending on how we operationalize the words that and what we mean by culture. And we can do surveys right now to see what ideals Black people in America have. And it's more than twerking and things of that nature. For the most part, when I think about FBA, I'm thinking like FBA will be disappointed with their children if they acted like they acted. So for the most part, we want our children to grow up and have good jobs and be married and things of that nature and all that. No matter how the culture kind of morphed and came about and all that type of thing. But most of them will be upset with their children if they act like they did, if they were calling people names like they did, if they were bullying people like they did. Most of them will be, they won't even approve of this when it comes to their own children. So they should be ashamed of themselves. It's actually not in accord with African American culture. I mean, there's books on African American culture. It just depends on, but I do agree with you in your conceptualization and how you choose to define the words, but there's other ways to define the words.
Yeah, like I said, it that requires a conversation unto itself. And of course, I always got slides in text ready for such conversations. So that
but you are example, just a clear example of why people like Frank Zanu he would say, see, I got this from Asar. I got it from him. He said we didn't have any culture. So, and I did that.
I didn't say you didn't have any. I said you have an unculture.
Okay.
That's an unculture is having fragments of things.
That was your term.
But that is not organized. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That was your term, but you did at some point say we don't.
No, I didn't. I said if I said that we didn't, I said the people with no culture are the examples I used were Jews, Arabs, and the North American whites. They don't have no culture.
Okay.
So I say that we have an unculture, and the unstanding is short for unorganized. It doesn't matter if you have the fragments, but if you haven't institutionalized
culture, brother Asar.
Oh, I have
I think we have to operationalize it to make sense to me. Because I mean, I like what you're doing here. I get it, but you have to define that for me so that I can say yes, I agree operationally.
Because these are questions that I've dealt with. So, I wrote a book back in the day called The Bacala of North America, and I was attacking this notion of identity. Right. I have since suggested a new name, Nkole or Ba Nkole. But that was one of the major. Matter of fact, do I have on this slide?
Which Asar got RBG overalls? Which one? They don't have the U in there, so they talking about you, Baba. I don't know. They take my U's out too.
As a matter of fact, I had a debate.
They're talking about the other one.
Oh, the other one. Oh man.
So this is what I'm gonna do because I already have it open. Now I don't know if you kicked me out or it kicked me out of the back end.
No, I think it went out on its own.
Okay, so hopefully it'll stay. But yeah, if because I want to share my screen.
It's backstage.
Yeah, so whenever you're ready.
Me leaving the back.
And the shared yeah. So these are my slides from a debate I had some years ago. Which one was it? Well, that's this updated 2022 version. So we was arguing. I forgot the gentleman's name, but I think he's out of Baltimore too. If I remember, it's been so long, but because I was arguing from the standpoint that we don't have our own. This before I came up with the culture, unculture. So I was saying that we don't have our own culture. Not that we didn't have any culture, is that we've been adopting other people's cultures and trying to make it our own, right? So in that conversation, of course, I had to pull up some things about culture, right? So I'm sorry. How do you make it? What was the slide? Yeah, slideshow from current slide. So I was like, well, what is culture? And right. So I pull up, for example, Dr. Milana Karenga, and he breaks down culture into 7 core areas of culture. And I still remember this from undergrad, and I know whose class I took. So it consists of history, mythology, motifs, ethos, and motifs being the graphical representations or expressions, the artistic expressions, for those that don't know what that means. Political organization, social organization, and economic organization. All right. And for Cheikh Anta Diop, he broke it culture down into 3 fundamental areas: the historic, the psychic, and the linguistic. Right. Now, when we go into Amos Wilson's Blueprint for Black Power, he provides several definitions of culture, and of course from other sources. So he's stating this for us. So he says Horton and Hunt provide a workable answer to this question: what is culture? From their life experiences, a group develops a set of rules and procedures for meeting their needs. The set of rules and procedures, together with a supporting set of ideas and values, is called a culture. Wilson continues, socially, culture patterns the ways its members perceive each other, relate to, and interact with each other. And then in my text, I came up with 9 laws of culture. And so I said that culture is conscious of itself. Culture is a collective, agreed upon method of expression that deals with your motifs and other artistic expressions, all right? Culture is rooted in the philosophy of purpose. This means all aspects of the culture serve a purpose and is intended to develop a certain type of human being, as I mentioned earlier. Culture has a cosmology. Culture has its own unique language that encapsulates how that population interprets reality. Culture has social and physical institutions that maintain and nurture current and future forms of expression. Culture must forever be expanding and contracting. The cultural elements of expression must be ritualized. Ritual keeps the history and philosophy of the people in the collective memory. Rituals help to strengthen bonds within the community between members and their ancestors. Number 8, culture has a constituency who are somewhat conservative in nature, who are the living memory of the culture and who can reorient the culture when it begins to stray from its foundational principles. These constituencies are the living libraries that pass on the history from one generation to another. Lastly, culture has a formal rite of passage. So members of the community have clear points in time that mark one's development and maturity within that community. The rites of passage formally introduces the finer points of the culture, prepares them to adequately handle and develop power within the culture, introduces the members of the corporate community to their purpose and relationship to the opposite sex, the community, the earth, and the duties as parents, and finally, it provides an environment from which the individual can discover knowledge of self. Now, when I have these discussions on culture, I look at all of these elements that are in the particular text, right? And I look at African Americans as a whole, and I say, well, we have elements of culture, but a lot of our culture really isn't ours. It's what we've had to adopt for survival here. For example, we get our values in things from like Christianity or Islam, but these were imposed religions on us. We don't have a traditional African American clothing. Our clothing is European clothing. Of course, our language is the European language, even if it has its Africanisms, right? we've tried to create educational institutions, but we don't support them in great numbers. So we have of course, our communiversities and the things of that nature, and but there's a lot of elements to culture, and so when I'm having these discourses, it's not arbitrary, the kinds of things that I'm mentioning. Now, this was my tentative. Hold on.
But I mean, according to the way you're like framing this, who on earth has culture?
There's a lot of folks who have culture, and then there's a lot of folks who have.
Name some.
I named some at the beginning. So, for example, like I said, the Yoruba people.
I'm talking about outside of Africa.
I said China, the Chinese.
So what makes them they won't fit in all these categories? Even they've been as Europeanized, Westernized, and they got all this mix up stuff going on too.
Notice that I said that in our conversation that culture, there's no such thing as a pure culture.
Okay.
Everyone interacts and borrows. Okay. But it gets to a point. What'd you say?
But look, so the reason why I'm struggling with this a bit is that this is the very reason why a lot of people from FBA are fighting back. This what they traumatized by this. Just to be honest with you,
but FBAs don't have a culture.
No, FBAs are saying that people are coming to hijack and say they don't have culture when everybody see. So you're not saying this, but I just want to be clear. That's why I'm asking you who has culture. So let me just clarify. Are you saying Jamaicans have culture?
Jamaicans are, and let me say this: there's as a result of the transatlantic slave trade, the African descendants are on their way to building a culture.
Okay.
It doesn't have to, like, it's not an immediate thing. Like the Yoruba people didn't always exist as the Yoruba people. The Yoruba people are the consequence of several migrations and wars and things of that nature. Same thing with the Songhai people, right? It's an amalgam of people who came together and decided to become a people due to various circumstances.
Do you have
and over time, I'm sorry?
Do you have a scale? Because to me, like, I hear a lot of words, but I'm wondering what scale do you have that can, like, we can look at? And I appreciate what you're doing. I just don't know. It's kind of deep for the FBAers, and I'll be honest with you, because they're going to take this as evidence of why they're fighting, not really trying to get what you're trying to say. I can intellectually go where you're going. I don't know if politically I like it, but intellectually I can go with where you're going. And what I mean politically, I'm saying the way that it imprints on our minds and actually how it energizes us and mobilizes us. So, like, especially considering all that's going on right now. Like, and I mean, like, FBA, Frank Zanu, Busta Rhymes, Fat Joe, all these different things. I think this is a highly intellectual thing that I can have intellectual fun with you about. I'm talking about, like, literally, we can nerd out about this. But this conversation, I think you even said it.
Yeah, but that's again, like, if we're talking, remember the beginning of my conversation. This is a population of very uneducated people. I can't have this discussion with them until they get to a certain level of understanding about reality, right? Like I'm citing Blueprint for Black Power. Do you think FBAs are going to go through a 900-page book about the psychology of Black folks, its history, economics? There's a whole chapter in there on Afro-centric education. So they're going to reject that, right? Like, there are certain people and populations I know I'm not going to be able to have these conversations with. If I'm sitting here with a Hebrew Israelite, as a former Hebrew Israelite, I'm telling you, you can't have these conversations with a Hebrew Israelite. They're just not there. But for those of us who are, don't mean we have to dumb down our conversations with each other because a certain part of our population hasn't gotten there yet.
Well,
we have to have a different approach with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the way that the words are being, I think we could debate whether, whether or not we have, I guess you're saying uncultured is not saying you're cultureless.
I'm saying that you haven't. So for example, again, you have to have an ideal citizen of your population. When I look at cultures, they have ideal citizens who you are supposed to emulate. It's part of their mythology because it's only an idea. Nobody ever reaches the mythology. So, for example, those Jewish people who created this phenomenon called Christianity, their mythological idea is an individual by the name of Jesus. And they created mythological narratives surrounding this guy and put together taboos, rituals, and everything, gave you a book to follow so that you can become this ideal person. Because for them, this is the kind of person that we need to move and operate in the world. If you are quote unquote Christ-like.
I mean, there's
so no, listen to what I'm saying. So if I ask you, what is that collectively indigenous for us that applies to the whole culture? That we galvanize and put our resources and develop institutions around, that we say for all African Americans, this is the model that we've created, and this is what you should do to reach this ideal.
That's an unfair comparison, though. Because
I know it's an unfair comparison because you are the descendants of enslaved Africans who are developing themselves.
I'm talking about nationally is unfair because you have various groups, just like the Yoruba people of Nigeria or wherever else, that have these ideas, and they still have different ideas. So what I'm saying is there's
but they all agree. The Yoruba people all agree on the Yoruba language. They all agree on Obatala. Oya. They all agree on Ifa. They all agree on Oshun. They all agree on Ogun.
People of that region. That's what I'm saying.
That's an example. I can name many of them.
I'm about to give you an example that the people who are part of the Nation of Islam here in the hells of North America have.
Yes, and they are Muslims. But they are Arabs.
Well,
in their thinking and the like. Islam is not African. Islam is not African American.
The UNIA has an ideal person that they feel that they should strive to be like. I'm saying that you can't really.
What aren't you getting when I say that we have elements and fragments?
Well, I'm just saying
but
that.
Listen. With no expectation of, there's no cultural expectation that everybody go through the UNIA or the Nation of Islam.
National expectation, everybody's not Yoruba.
I didn't say that everybody is Yoruba. I'm saying
I'm trying to juxtapose them evenly, equally. I mean, like there's not. It's not comparing apples to apples. Now, if you told me the entire Nigeria was under this particular group,
Nigeria is a modern construct of the 1884-1885 Berlin Conference.
Got you.
There's no Nigerian culture.
Well,
That's why I didn't say Nigerian culture. I didn't say a Ghanaian culture. I gave an ethnic group.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying. The ethnic group is within a larger construct, whether you want to call it Nigeria or not.
Let's do this. So I have on the screen here from page 59 of Blueprint for Black Power. Dr. Amos Wilson informs us that culture constructs definitions, meanings, and purposes. These cultural constructs are used to proactively and reactively mold the mind, body, spirit, and behavior of the constituent members of a culture. What are the African American purposes? What are our goals as that we can, when somebody says this is what African Americans come to be, that isn't an individual organization, a 501c3 organization. That is just the culture of the people.
Well, see, this is not. That's not that you can support that. Well, I'm not talking about you. I'm saying we can. There are cultural ideas that mold the mind of the majority of African Americans. You can do surveys on it. So is
it their ideas? If you are a Christian, you identify as a Christian, or your values and ideas yours or Jewish?
Well, see, that's when we will have to. That's where people would debate. But to say it's not there is a different thing. To some people people like Dr. Marimba Ani would say that we brought the Africanity into these things. Like, so what I'm saying is, it's up.
Yeah, but now, see, and this is, I haven't mentioned it in this conversation, but I've mentioned this in others. The closer we were to slavery, the richer the African presence was in the culture, or in the people. After integration, we started to lose. This is why we have these problems now, because of integration. We're more and more like white people.
Well,
the more and more you become like white people, the more anti-culture you become.
Let me say this. I agree with you on one level, but on another level, I don't. And my brain is catching a little fog right now because you know why. But
I'm saying that we have elements of culture.
I don't think it's politically.
It's not organized.
Wise to say, well, okay, you're saying we have elements of culture. It's not organized. Okay. But you're not saying.
Dr. Amos Wilson, page 310. Race identity. See, we've been of course, as you stated earlier, our scholars already gave us the tools to have these conversations, right? So on race identity and economics, as a political economy, identity is an organization of interest, taste, desires, passions, ideals, motives, values, knowledges, abilities, skills, etc. The pursuit, satisfaction, exercises, and realization of which helps to maintain the social power relations, social prerogatives, and the integrity of social, political, and economic systems, which characterize a particular culture and its status quo. Thus, in both the commercial and non-commercial sense, an ethno-cultural group trades on its identity. The fact that we are so fragmented and have these debates are showing that we haven't organized. That's why I have highlighted here in red. Identity is the organization of these interests. You can have separately some interests, some taste, some passions, but then you always got to question, from a psychological perspective, to what degree are your thoughts your own? Are your values your own? Are your own taste your own?
Yeah,
Right? That's a different conversation.
I think
But you have to organize. That's why I said culture is conscious.
I think in order for this to be clear, you have to develop a scale. Because other than that, is not okay. I get it intellectually. I even agree with you intellectually, but I feel like in order for you to really flesh this out and make it clear and responsible, you need to develop a scale.
That's
a
not a problem.
scientific instrument. Because other than that, I think that, and what I mean by where I politically disagree is that the way that it lands is going to be different than what you intend.
Again, we're having an off the cuff conversation. So this isn't this isn't the organized.
And I'm doing this is for those who will say this, right? So I get it. We're having an off the cuff conversation, and I really appreciate what you're doing here. But at the same time, I can't act like people aren't watching. But intellectually, it's brilliant. But on another level, I want to challenge you. If you're going to pull it out, we need a scale because it's too loose. We need to be able to measure. Let's go and do some research on this, brother, sir. Because I think I get what you're saying. I agree with it intellectually. But I think we have to, it has to be, we have to be able to measure these things that we saying we don't have or we do have, because to me, it almost gets to a level to say we either got it or we don't. And that's not how good social science is done. We have to be able to measure these things.
I agree. And, I'm not, again, that's why.
This instrument.
I'm sorry?
Let's create this instrument.
Oh, we'll do. But yeah, like see, this is why these conversations are important and why you have to have time to flush certain things out. Because in these heated debates with FBAs and others of the like, because you're in the passion of making arguments, you won't be able to bring out a lot of these things because we're trying to make arguments against one another.
Right.
And so, like, if you give a simple definition of culture, right, you have to understand that there's various definitions, and you got to find the underlying themes in all these particular definitions. And so you would have to flesh that out and bring that out and then measure against, well, do we have this in terms of a national objective in the like, right? And if we don't, how can we make it happen? Instead of trying to argue that we do. We know we don't. And so this is what we have to do. Like we should have like that's one thing you can appreciate about white folks. They try to standardize everything, right? Even when it comes to like constructions, there's certain standards. They try to standardize it so that everything can work. They created a system around everything, right? And it's not to say that there's no such thing as divisions and the like. Is that our individual cultures in Africa, when we were brought here, those things were interrupted, and we as Amos Wilson and others have brought out, a lot of our behaviors are maladaptive, right? Because we're just trying to survive here instead of being on the offense. So what I'm trying to get us is off of defense and onto offense, to where you're defining your reality.
Right.
You're creating whatever you're showing is not Brother Sean, if you're showing anything. Or you were just reading.
Yeah, I was reading. Page 56.
We all there. Look, it's just in my arm's reach.
See, FBA don't got blueprint for Black Power.
And let me be clear, because I see some of the comments. I said I understand what my dear brother is saying here. Now I do want to challenge him though, because the social scientist in me is saying, yo, you can say all that, but we need a scale. Because other than that, it's theoretical, but how do we test it? And I think the theory is something I do agree with, because again, I asked the question. It's not like Frank Zanu's the first one who said we didn't have culture. Many of our scholars said we don't have culture, or that we have vestiges of our culture, or that we've created a culture of survival, as Brother Asar is saying. So I agree with them. You know, I just think that let's if we're going to do it academically, let's come up with let's do a scale, so we just can't say we don't, because there can't be a cutoff. Like, it has to be a number of items or some severity level or something that says, well, look. And I might be making it complicated, but I'm not making it complicated in a way that's not needed. I'm making it complicated so that we can substantiate and prove our points, and that it can be very clear. Because if we were to put this in a journal, then we will have to have some type of way to measure this or to support the things that we're saying. Whether someone can say we do have culture, in as long as they operationalize it in a way that makes sense, they can also support that. But the way that Brother Asar is operationalizing, I get it and agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, political, that's a whole other thing. Yeah.
It's I'll just read this. I think he's in Maryland. He's not in Baltimore. But it's an African professor, Dr. Kaikosa Kajangu, who is from, I believe, well, he's from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and studied in the southern parts of Africa, being initiated into various wisdom traditions, as he calls it. I just want to read this definition, this statement, which is from his PhD dissertation entitled "Beyond the Colonial Gaze: Reconstructing African Wisdom Traditions." And this is one of the sources of many where I was talking about how culture is conscious and how it encompasses a vision for the people, right? And so he states in the text that ancestral vision is a vivid expression that describes why a particular community of memory exists and what types of human beings it intends to deliver. It expresses the feelings that members of that community of memory hold for their community and its place in the world. Often this vision is the name that community gives to itself, right? So even like I said this before in other discourses, that when we name ourselves, traditionally in Africa, the name encompasses the vision that the people have for themselves. So like when you say, for example, if ADOS is a label, what kind of vision does that represent in terms of being a descendant of slavery? That's not a vision. That's not in the tradition of African people, so to speak. And the same thing with FBA. That's not a vision. That's just something you are. And the more and more these folks keep marrying white folks, there's the concept of blackness in America is going to be just an abstract historical title. It's not going to represent the actual skin color of the people, right? And so, but this is one of the things that we have to look at. Like I did a deep study into culture and naming practices around the world, and especially in Africa, right? And so when I look at all these things, it actually made me sad, because I look at this and I realize just how much we lost. And when you're reading that particular thing, they're saying, why does the community exist? The assumption is that we've came together to become something. Well, that isn't the case for us African Americans. We didn't come together to become something. We were forced together as a result of slavery. And so we have to now figure out, why we exist as a people. And what is the collective vision? Like, because freedom is not a thing no more. The people don't want freedom and sovereignty here in the United States. We just want our plight to be as less dangerous as possible existing in this space, right? We just want what white folks want, right? But there's just so much more to identity and culture than what is being discussed. And I think that not everybody, a lot of folks oversimplify the discussions of culture and don't realize what it is, what we had, what we've lost, what we've been able to retain. And then more so, like, even though this has been bad for us in terms of slavery, it also there's a silver lining that we can actually create a culture that doesn't have the baggage of our ancestral cultures. We have the foresight, we have text, we can look and see what the mistakes were and not be obligated to maintain that for historical sake, right? Like, what I'm trying to say is that this is an opportunity to create something better than what we've inherited. But we got to be honest about where we're at. And that's what a lot of folks don't want to.
And I think it's essential though. Like, the way you define it, I get it. But there's also, I don't think it's a right or wrong on how people define the thing. It's about how you define it. Because other people would define it in a way that we do have culture. Now, they wouldn't have the same definition as you. I mean, like, and I think they all make good arguments, but they're not also saying, and some people won't say that culture is always cultivating the most positive things. Or some people would say that basically what we're calling culture is trauma being misunderstood as culture. So there's all types of frameworks that people use, and I get that. And I appreciate all the frameworks. All of them have utility. But I also do, I just want to be clear, I do understand what people mean here, African Americans or American Africans, when they say we have culture. Because the reason why I say I want to be clear is that because other people will come here who have also experienced similar things and have unculture, as you define it, and say we don't have culture. But it's very clear if they think that they have culture because they eat rice and peas and carry chicken, they think that means they have culture, but they're still practicing the same traditions, the same religions. I'm talking about European religions and all these other things, but saying that because we don't speak with patois, see, we even begin to think that we don't have culture. And what I mean is, I'm talking about on the same level. I'm not talking about your level of culture. I'm not your cultural breakdown, but I'm talking about to the level that they're speaking to. Because in our minds, we begin to believe that every Jamaican is Rastafarian. And every Jamaican ain't Rastafarian. And every Trinidadian is whatever, and every person in Cuba doesn't practice Santeria and all these type of things, but which are also evolutions of an original thing. But what I'm saying is, I get what you're saying, and I also get what they're saying. So I get what people mean when they say we do have a culture, and I do get when you say we have an unculture.
It's just unorganized, and I would like for us to, and again, we're at a stage now where it's just too many people and we're too spread out to expect, kind of a unified thing. But you can create something that we can that is a kind of reduced thing that we can all agree that, okay, this is the center of who we are. And we recognize these regional expressions. And so like one of the things, this is why I study African people and languages and cultures so hard, right? Like I've introduced into this community the concept of kimoyo, right? Now, moyo is a word that means heart in Bantu languages. But it also means spirit, soul. It's used as a greeting, right? And it is the vital force of someone. And so Kimoyo is Kikongo that speaks about the art or the manner of utilizing this vital force. Now, we brought the word over here in a different form called mojo. So when somebody back in the day would say, you know, oh, she got my mojo working, right? That's moyo, right? Matter of fact, out here in Philly, when you go to it's an area called the King of Prussia. And in King of Prussia, they have a store called Cigar Mojo. Is European owned, but it's interesting that this lexicon has entered into the American, or this lexeme has entered the American lexicon, right? But it's a word for soul, spirit, and right. But it's deeper than just the term for soul, spirit. Kimoyo really describes a vital force exchange system. And when you study African spiritual traditions or just African cultures in general, you see how what I'm calling Kimoyo from the Congo, how this is expressed in each of these different African ethnic groups. And if you understood Kimoyo, you'd understand African American culture or its unculture. And because we have this is why we have it's a phenomenon in linguistics called a semantics. A semantics is the way that a population maps certain meanings to lexicon, right? So, for example, when a semantics in African languages is that the word for sun is also the word for day. And you'll find in all these African languages that to say the word today, you would have to say in their language, this sun, because the sun equals day. That's the semantics that exists in Africa. In Africa, they also have a semantics where they use the word for to eat or to consume to reference the defeat of somebody or the success of something. We carried that semantics here in the United States. This is why every single time, like I used to run track, and when we would be training after the meet, you know, we meet up with the other track ones. If I won, I'd be like, I ate your ass up on the track field. Sister today, oh, sister 8. Da 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 da. This is a semantics if you don't understand, but that is part of a deeper Kimoyo philosophy and value system in terms of vital force exchange. I took your vital force. I ate you. I defeated you. This is the language. This is what survives in African American vernacular English, right? And what I would want to do, or what I've been trying to do, is to make these connections in a very academic and systematic way so that you understand that these little nuances that you have as an African American person is the survival of an underlying philosophy for which you forgot. It's just part of the habits that you have. But and so if we can bring back the underlying philosophy in a way and organize it and make it part of the organizing ethos in terms of pedagogy, then it becomes the culture, because now you understand what it is that you're saying,
brother.
And doing. Go ahead.
You know, I'm under the weather, so I'm thinking it's lagged. But I'm thinking about, I asked you for a definition. Another challenge I want to challenge you to do is to take, you gave me 1,000 definitions. I didn't read all of them before. And
Hold on, I have an actual definition for culture. I didn't get to read it while we was on.
I want you to, because I think your definition would be, more, because they're doing something very different with culture. I mean, I've read it, I got it underlined and everything in these books. But what you're doing, I'm saying it is a intellectual and it is needed and all that. But what you're doing, I think we need to hear your definition of culture, and it would.
I'm gonna put it on the screen.
It's not that complex. It is complex because Asar's talking about something very complex that doesn't go with. If you were to go to any school today or anywhere, what he's saying would not be what is being taught in academia. So he has to be very clear. I know y'all say, "Oh, it's not that complex," but Asar is a scholar, and because he's a scholar, it's always going to be complex. Because what he is doing is he already said a lot of people aren't going to like it. But again, I also agree that a lot of our scholars have said something very similar, but in different ways. But then it's also our scholars who try to support that we do have culture for very good reasons.
I understand. Mm-hmm. Now this is my definition. This is what I published in 2000.
There we go.
in 2008. So it's people who have the text, can find the page number which it is. So this isn't something I just made up on the fly to have this discussion.
Is the institutionalized? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, culture, and notice I said Asar's tentative definition of culture, right? But it's a definition nonetheless.
So your working definition.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So culture is the institutionalized organization of the physical and social forces of life so that they, one, aid the human person in developing one's own powers of being, two, can provide tools that enable one to tower over life's challenges, three, encourages one to celebrate life's beauties, four, fertilizes one's seeds of greatness, and five, encourages the person to discover new, satisfying dimensions of being human in community and the world at large. Now, there's a lot of stuff that's said here that it makes sense if you read the text.
Okay.
What are your powers of being and towering over life's 1001 challenges? Like in that sense, culture is supposed to provide you with solutions to problems. That's ultimately what a culture, in its most simplified definition. Culture is the way that a population solves its problems. That's it.
And so, so with that, then we have to, I guess we will conclude, how do you think the unculture from your perspective is doing right now, if you had to put that on a scale of 1 to 10?
2.
Okay. So we
it's a lot that the problem is, again, it's too many of us and we're too spread out. And not only that, we have major hurdles.
But I think it goes back to what you said earlier. I think you have to, I think what population, because you said it's too many of us, and you said it's even idealistic to a degree to think that everybody is going to adopt this. So how do you realistically see in your mind, how do you measure, what do you foresee? How many people? Is it a geographic location? Is it the whole United States? Is it regional, geographical? What is it? How do you so it's, to me, as they said on the on the White Boy show when Terrence Howard went there, he said we need to steel man this argument.
Mm-hmm.
We need for real. I'm being real. I'm being real. You have to be able to have something that measures, or we will never reach the place according to how you're identifying this thing. We have to be able to have a number or some type. We have to have measurement. We have to have something, or anybody can say anything.
I understand. Now how I discussed this in the text was that the plan was to, well, let me say this before I get there. What I want to avoid is exactly the issue that Tariq Nasheed has. See, our problem is we keep looking for that one savior to come up with the solutions, and then if you find a flaw with that person, then you want to dismiss everything that they do. So we can't follow Elijah Muhammad, right? We can't follow Milana Karanga. We can't do anything. We can't celebrate Kwanzaa because Milana Karanga has some legal issues, right? We can't. Of course, there's the issues with Tariq Nasheed and all this. Like, if you center it around one person, then any flaw of that person will disrupt the movement. So what I suggested was to create a series of conferences where certain individuals, and how this is to be worked out hasn't been worked out all the way, but you'll get a sense of what I'm speaking of, to where we solicit some of the most educated folks on history and culture, and then we put them up. It's almost kind of like what was going on in the Race First conference. Like, it's broken up into different saying sections, and then we come together, we create these bylaws, and we just create the text, and it's not under an individual, it's just under like an organization name or something like this, and we just present this to the people. And we have a website, we have strategies on how to implement it into the various regions and things of this nature. So everything isn't like it isn't on me. Like, if y'all have a problem with me, that y'all won't look at the text and be like, and just dismiss it because I don't like brother Asar, right? But like, all of that was considered, and this is how saying we do it, because you have to create it. You have to go on the offensive, and it has to start somewhere.
I am convinced that our culture will remain pluralistic. Now, what you just
but then it isn't a culture.
Well,
you would have to.
I just said a pluralistic culture, brother. That's a term. That's a real thing.
But you get what I'm saying?
Look, I'm operationalizing now. I'm operationalizing now. I can go with what you're saying. What I'm saying is, culture doesn't have to be the way that you identify it. I mean, you've identified it that way, and you can go with any definition. You can pull out 1,000. I can pull them out too. But what I'm saying is, as a thought leader, as you are, I am convinced, though, that I don't care who else said what. I don't care. Look, I got all these books too. What I'm saying is, I'm convinced that in this country, it's going to be pluralistic. And as you just spoke about, that race first. So I will challenge some of the things, but I get it. Ideologically, as Dr. Amos Wilson talks about in Blueprint for Black Power, that we have to have an ideology, a core ideology that guides us. And he says that is one of the most essential things we have. Now, and that ideology will drive us. Now, race first, as we did in Baltimore with PLM and all these other organizations, but kind of facilitated by PLM, is exactly what you're speaking to. There's no one group. We're all writing together. We're all voting. In fact, we were just meeting like the last 2 weeks. We've been meeting since then. I would suggest people jump on. You know what I'm saying? Because we speak about the centralness of culture. We speak about the central our way, but also understand that when we look at it, when I look at it and I hear it, it's going to be a pluralistic endeavor.
But you would have to, again, if we're talking about, because we can overcomplicate things, like when you say race, right? The race encompasses many different cultures. But if we're talking about African Americans as a population,
Right.
we're going to have to, somebody's going to have to come up with a core value system or core, like just in terms that we can have it.
It's already happened.
And then you have to create a simplified text and then create a strategy to which it is implemented across the country.
Yeah, but
that doesn't exist.
It does exist. It's just not.
What's the?
It's not going.
How you know it's not going to work if you never done it?
It's not going to. What I'm saying is, there's plenty of people with big brains like you and I who have who've already had these talks, including one you just mentioned earlier. Malana Karenga has a whole philosophy. I'm writing a philosophy. In fact, what I'm saying is, Malana.
But it's your. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's identified with you. And Kwanzaa identified with him.
Philosophy is a collective philosophy. What I'm saying is, what I'm bringing together all the greats. This is not an individual process. In fact, the framework itself says it is a collectivistic framework. It is not me. Somebody has to bring the books together. But what I'm saying
but you just repeated what I said. In order, you just said, as Amos Wilson said, that we have to create the core values and things of this nature. I'm like, somebody's going to have to write it as such and then present it to the people as such.
Yeah.
That has it not for African, like to say this is what it is for African Americans. These are ways that you can implement this in your home, in your education institutions and things of this nature. So again, this is, as I said, the African American culture, in quotes, is in development. We're getting on the offensive, and not just, we're trying to get away from being defensive.
But it's going to be more than one, brother. It's going to be more than one. It's going to be a pluralistic endeavor that complements one another.
Understand? Now, let me do it like this. Now, if you have you read the text Black Africa?
No.
By Cheikh Anta Diop. Black Africa, an economic and cultural basis for a federated state.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
In the text, at the end of the text, is recorded of one of in one or two, because Ivan Van Sertima has a copy of this interview as well in his journal dedicated to Cheikh Anta Diop. And in it, he talks about what was the drive and motivation for the approach that he used in his research and studies about African people. And so, as I showed earlier, when it came to 3 areas of culture, for him, it was linguistic, psychic, and historic.
Yeah.
Now, with the psychic, that is kind of the expressive piece, right, in values. And so what he says in the interview, where he's being interviewed, that was recorded in the Black Africa text, is that he wanted to work on the 2 that could be approached scientifically, which was the historic and the linguistic. Because one of the things that he noticed working on the ground in the grassroots is that on the continent of Africa, and we all know this, is this extreme tribalism. And, his vision and other folks have had this vision of a United States of Africa to be able to pull together their resources and fend against, external powers that seek to exploit continental Africans, right? But he's running into this problem of the extreme tribalism in Africa. And one of the things that he said as part of a suggested solution is that we just need to create a new culture. And he said an Afro-American culture, and not African-American like the ethnic group. What he's saying is that African-Americans and continental Africans need to come and create a new culture that everybody can rally behind, but still maintain their other quote unquote subcultures. And part of the reason why he did the research in the way he did was to show Africans that you are more alike than you think. Y'all have dialects of the same language. These people used to live over here, but now they live over here and they think they're different. I mean, they are different in the strictest sense, but ultimately these are the same people. They've been interacting and sharing with each other for thousands of years. And the only way he can show this is from in a very systematic and academic way. But that's the way that he approached it. But I like the idea where he was talking about creating a new culture. Like, I look at it because, I'm a computer scientist. And in computer science, we have this thing called a virtual machine. A virtual machine is an operating system that is on top of your operating system. So if you're on a Windows PC right now, you can operate Linux via a virtual machine. The virtual machine in this analogy would be the new culture that is created, that everybody can use as like a lingua franca, right? A lingua franca is just a language that is used for communication amongst many different language speakers. So Lingala in the Democratic Republic of Congo is the lingua franca. French is the lingua franca in many parts of Cote d'Ivoire and Mali and et cetera, right? Kiswahili in parts of East Africa. So just like how you would have a lingua franca, you can have a culture franca, right? It is just an operating culture so that when we meet with other cultures, the expectation is we can operate and move off of this synthetic culture, quote unquote, and be able to communicate and do business using that understanding what the values and expectations are for everybody who was under this umbrella. And so this is something that I wanted to incorporate here in the United States, understanding just how spread out we are and how we have all these quote unquote subcultures. If you create the culture franca, it just serves as an operator, serves as a virtual machine over the plurality so that everybody understands this expectation. We do this all the time. I'm in an organization, a fraternal organization, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, right? It operates under that same principle.
What would it be?
There's many.
What would that look like? What would that look like? Because to me, the way what you're articulating to me seems very similar to what Baba Dr. Amos Wilson spoke about when he talks about a core ideology.
Yeah, but he didn't live long enough to institutionalize it.
But what I'm saying
so
is,
you pick up the torch. I'm not saying that I'm inventing anything new. What I'm saying is everybody who reads all the books put it to work.
No, what I'm saying is my pushback on that is there has been people and collectives. Let me say that clearly. People and collectives that have tried to do it. It's still doing it. It's just that it's a protracted type of struggle. And so, sometimes what I become discontented with is that we'll say nobody did it, but that is not true. Because I'm certain most of the things that we say never have been tried or people haven't done, there are people doing it right now. But
I've never said that. I've said that we just haven't been successful. Okay, and part of that conversation is that a lot of folks have been presenting it under an idea of one person.
You kind of said it. You said, but
no, I'm very selective in my words.
You went into and you said, well, no, I gave an example and you said, well, that's one individual. Meaning when I said Malana Karenga,
yeah, but there's
an individual, and then that's why I'm coming back now and saying that this is a look. Let me let y'all know, family. Hold up. I'm going to leave. Brother Ansar is a nerd. Let me let y'all know this, right? and he really he needs this intellectual stimulation. I need it sometimes too, but I'm sick, and I can't hang with Brother Asar tonight because this is what he gets thrills off of, this thinking stuff. But Brother Asar, you know what? I'm like that too. You can always give me a call, and we can build. Because look, this is look. People think like he is enjoying this thing, and I know how that feels.
I mean, this is what
people like.
Look, this is what I do.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and you feel alone. So when you get the time to just intellectually talk like this, it feels good. So don't get it twisted. Me and my brother are here. He know I'm sick though, and I don't even have bronchitis, but I feel like I have it right now. But look, I didn't know it was gonna be midnight. My wife is like, "What we eating?" But yeah, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the mind. I appreciate the mind. It's way out there. I'm talking about in a very big way. You know, think big, very intellectual. I'm saying that I'm doing in my book. I'm writing about geniuses, right? I'm writing about giftedness. I'm talking about from an African-centered perspective, and I'm saying that lots of times we struggle with identifying these individuals in our communities who gets off on this type of stuff. I'm saying for real because it charges us. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your mind. I appreciate your work, but I'm gonna have to go. I see he put the link on my brother. My dear brother, what's your name again? I know you for sure.
Brother Sean.
Brother Sean. But hold up, Sean. What's your whole name though, Sean? Because I used to watch y'all way back in the day.
Oh, you was because of the Inherent.
Huh?
Nah, you talking about Sean or
what do they call you, Sean P or something? I know you got
Sean P.
Okay, that's what it is. Yeah. I've heard that name. I don't know if it's Almond Rock Squad days or something like that. It was something.
The Seshu or Kofi Pi Sci Research Team.
Okay, one of those two. Yeah. I used to be watching all these things. So I appreciate the minds. I appreciate the work. Hey, brother Osea.
Yes.
Look, hold up. You younger than me or older than me?
We're the same age. We're born in the same year.
My birthday first then. I'm January 22nd.
Yeah. I'm July 30th.
I was going to ask for my elder permission to speak or exit. Hold up. How old are you?
I'm 46.
You 46? Brother Sean
Yes.
P. How old are you? You don't want to tell the people?
Nah, I'm the youngest.
You the youngest? All right, look. I'm the elder here. Look, African culture. I had to ask permission to leave. Because I meet my brother Osea. Look, like I'm sitting here like, damn, it's two Oseas just talking too damn much. So let me but look, I appreciate it, brother. You got any closing words for me though? Because I'm gonna have to go. Because I know I'm gonna be paying for it tomorrow. Because you know what happened? Y'all know I was a little under the weather, but that adrenaline started flowing when I start talking, and I'm like, I'm feeling like I'm good right now. But y'all know how it is when that adrenaline goes down.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Indeed.
So any closing words for me, good brother, before you before I go?
Nah, man, you can let people know what you got coming up. I know you said you're writing and working on the article. You know, anything, any presentations or lectures or whatever you might.
We doing all the things Brother says that doesn't exist. So what I'm going to ask is for him to promote that. When he say we don't have it, just say we don't have it enough. It's not large enough. We need to highlight these things. You know, and he said, well, he didn't say it, but he said. But anyway, but nonetheless, I have what we call Injia Rites of Passage. The way the book is called Injia is it comes from a psychological, historical, psychotherapeutic, cultural, collective, societal type of healing approach. But also, I'm training some people right now through the model. They're going through it is an inward rite, is a communal rite, but it's also a lot of us go through these communal rites, but the reality is there's no change. I see a lot of people going through rites of passage, but they come out the same way they went in, messed up. But nonetheless, I guess that's the unculture that my dear brother's speaking about. I think so. Look, send me them slides. I won't publish them. Let's work on that for real. I like to put that in some articles or something, right? But nonetheless, we can. So yeah, I'm the founder of T-Net Holistic Wellness Center, Diasporan, co-founder of Diasporan Soul Jamaican American Fusion Restaurant, T-Net Holistic Wellness Center, which stands for Temple of New African Thought, where We do lots of things. We build like this all the time. We build, taking people through rite of passage, doing all the things that Brother Asad said is required for culture. I appreciate it. You know, I still land my plane and say though, I know I would argue, I don't care how many sources you pull out, it's going to be a pluralistic formation. With that, I'm going to say peace and power, family. Thanks for having me.
No doubt, man.
Blessings, brothers.
Peace.
So what you got going, man? What can we expect?
Right now I'm just working on this text in dedication to Dr. Muba Bingi Balolo, and so I have a number. I'm editing. It's going to be edited by me, so I'm gonna have some articles in there. Some of Bilolo's articles translated into English, and then some other African scholars have contributed some articles in it. And I have a chapter to a book. Hold on. Transdisciplinary. I forgot the full title. To Dia, right? So a part of this particular conversation that we're even having today is one of the things that I've been interested in is this notion of leadership. And so I've asked this question, and it has become like the motivation behind an institution simply, asking the question, what does it mean to be king? And so I've done a lot of research and scholarship. He said, "Please think of the backpacks." A lot of text, dealing with African concepts of kingship and leadership. That there's some weaknesses in the traditional model, but there's also some very good things about it. I think if we integrated it and put it in terms of a national rites of passage, then this will be something. So the article is in a text called Cheikh Anta Diop's Transdisciplinary Legacy: Impacts on Contemporary Africology. It's chapter 10. This is edited by Victor Ogu Ejiofor Akafor. It comes out it is 2026. This month on the 22nd is supposed to be released. Now, this is one of those books that is designed to be in the library, right? So it's published by Routledge Press. So it's an expensive book. That's what I'm saying. It's because it's going to cost you $200, I think, on Amazon. On the website, they have a discount, 25% off. Or I forgot what the exact percentage is, but you can get it for 160. So I don't expect folks to run out and get this text. But if you set aside $10 a month or whatnot, you're having a no time, right? Like, but I'm letting you know it's an expensive book. But it's one of those academic books that is really kind of meant for libraries and stuff like that. But it's dealing with Cheikh Anta Diop, so it's titled Osir Cheikh Anta Diop, and then subtitle, What Does It Mean to Be a King? And in it, I do an analysis on the name Osir or Wasir or Osiris, and come to the conclusion that his name derives from a word that means a tree or a pillar, right? And they use it metaphorically to talk about the role of the male of the household, right? So if you can imagine a traditional hut, there's a center pole in the traditional hut that holds up the house,
Yeah.
right? And it's supposed to be like a metaphor, like as a man, because the concept of kingship just evolved from the home framework. So the word for kings in African languages, many of them is just a word for father, or head of household. But the father or the head of household is supposed to be the one that everybody can lean on and not fall, right? So when somebody says that they're an Osir, they've had to prove that. You had to show how reliable you were and how generous you were with your resources and the like. So it's a very deep thing, and I think that if we understood what they're trying to say, we can actually create a kind of a men's rites of passage and development, and show them what it means to be king, right? And what are the expectations in the role. So anyway, so that's and of course there's other scholarship and the like, but these are the kinds of things that I'm working on or have worked on more immediately. So yeah, but that like this whole thing of culture and thing, I've been researching this for a very long time, and
Now I
I've
remember that
interrogated.
presentation. It was a few years ago.
Yeah.
When you put that out. So I remember that presentation. Where can the people find you?
They can find me on osirmhotep.com, OSIRmhotep.com. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on TikTok. And I'm going to actually be working on the Osir, so that may be down next week. But if you find me on Facebook or any other, on YouTube, Osir and the Mbongi, you can find me anywhere. And probably arguing with some folks. I'll be in the chat, passing by, trolling in the chat. That's what we do. But yeah, I didn't even realize we've been on this month for 3 hours.
Yeah, it doesn't say because it was a conversation. It was just flowing, so that's why I wasn't interjecting. I was just listening. At that point, I was just like, let me just listen to both sides, kind of understand it. But I already kind of had a general idea of what you were saying. I think most people will buy you, but you had already told them that they would be bothered by it. But you forewarned them.
Yeah, and that's just something that I've come to accept about me, is that like I'll have these grandiose ideas or I'll have these discoveries, and they may go against what people traditionally believe about a subject. So as with the whole Kemet debate, right, and the meaning of Kemet, right? So that's not a surprise to me, but one of the things that I try to do is just not come to the public with just a random idea. I want to go into it real deeply and to ask questions that nobody is asking, and to think of solutions that nobody not necessarily has thought of, because I don't know if people have thought of and they just never came out with it, but or a particular strategy that hasn't been utilized or perfected, right? So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that nobody has thought of this stuff, but maybe their approach wasn't feasible. Like there's something like in computer science, we're just so used to going over old code and figuring out solutions and why this doesn't work, and thinking of new strategies, thinking of new techniques and codes. That's all coding is articulating algorithms, solutions, and commands for the computer to do, to do something more efficiently or to bring about a certain particular outcome. So when I approach these things, I approach it like a software developer, a software engineer, right? Because that's ultimately what culture is. It's a code, right? That's why you have a code of conduct. What is the code? It's the what are the rules and the taboos that you are to follow? That's what it literally is. Language is a code. Like, and there's certain things that we can take from software development and apply it on the cultural level. Now, it's not going to have the same effect because a computer is only going to do what you tell it to do, right? But we're dealing with human beings, and they don't like to do stuff. They'll not do it because you suggested it. Because Sean suggested it, I don't like it. I don't like Sean. Sean says to stop at the stop sign. F Sean. I ain't stopping at no stop sign. And so you just got to prepare for that. But if you don't create the model, so like as a software developer, as an engineer or an architect, right? You put together plans, blueprints for people to follow. But everybody want to have try to solve these solutions without developing a model for you to weigh your actions against. A model, an architectural plan, a software development plan is the goal. It's the collective goal you're trying to achieve. And it's put in a manner to where, anybody who has knowledge on how to read the plans or the code can come and say, okay, let me go do this and put this together. And then you put the structure or the software and stuff together. And, we don't take that approach. We just want to kind of wing it and let the ancestors, work through us. Sometimes the ancestors need to sit down and just put the plan together. That's why I love the blueprint for Black Power. I'm like, how many people have just sat down and created an institution where their sole objective is to implement the blueprint for Black Power and to see what works and what doesn't work out of the book? You can't even think of anybody. You may have an individual who may have tried to implement some of it in his own life, but as an institution, like for example, in the blueprint for Black Power, he suggests that we create cooperatives, co-ops, in terms of grocery stores and stuff like this, employee-owned jobs and stuff like this. How many of us have actually put that into motion and tested it out? It's not that many that you could probably think of, if any at all. And so a lot of us like to read these texts, but don't want to implement the text on a large scale and plan for large. That's one thing. You can say what you want about white people. White people are right now planning on how to get to other galaxies. Like they have that much freedom where they just bored on Earth that they wondering how can we get to other galaxies, creating they even creating a space force for the United States, right? They try to get like Star Wars or some stuff, and we can't organize something like this. They have a national. They create a national organization. They have a national psychological organization, the American Psychology Association, APA. When you implement anything that deals with psychology here in the United States, the APA is the standard, and everything trickles down from that organization. It's a national organization, right? And matter of fact, you kind of learn a lot of things when you're studying, psychology and the like. It's so much that you can do when you create a national organization, and you implement things. And this is the kind of level that African Americans need to get on, in more situations or whatnot, so that we, could pull together the best and brightest of our minds, so that we can, implement these things, right? But I wish I had access to put up some of the comments. I can't see. Anyway,
Kicked me out, unloaded my background. It's true. But yeah,
I need to get one of my other backgrounds. This is my what you call it background for the photography. but I have some brighter ones. This one looks so dark, I guess. But yeah, man. I mean, unless you have some other questions
Nah, that's pretty
specifically,
much it.
I didn't want to hit on, you know.
Nah, that's pretty much it. DJ, I apologize to you, bro, but you don't know what Pan Africanism is. You're not defining it properly. You're just attacking it based on regurgitation. And you're saying that FBA already did what Assault was referring to. We still don't even know who that is and what they established at all.
I'm not reading what you're reading. What is he saying about Africa?
In the chat, DJ Biggs was saying that FBA had already done everything that you was talking about as far as
What?
other stuff. Yeah,
Under what value system though? That's the
he
thing.
making
He just, I'm sorry.
he making it up.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, son. The FBA started yesterday.
Oh yeah, I put it on the screen, Vyasa. Right, that's what I'm saying. So how he saying something developed anything if they just made it up? Oh yeah, Vyasa said, "What you think about this image right here?" Let me
He said delineated images own your reflection.
Yeah.
So I mean, is this supposed to? Because it kind of got like a turban on. Is this supposed to be a Moor? Like who created this? Like what was it?
Nah, Vyasa created it. I don't know why he put the head wrap on there, but he definitely put it on there.
So what I see is so let me just assume that this is just a standard, African image or an image of an African man. So
Yeah.
what I take from it is that his true reflection is that of an African, but his outside appearance is this kind of American Eurocentric, look and body or shell, so to speak. Um, if I'm correct on that.
Yep.
Mm. Yeah, I mean it's hard. I mean it's a hard conversation to have because you can't have it without having other conversations, and you have to do it in a manner in which you're able to teach the fragments in a line in a series so that they get the understanding. But if they don't understand the nature of psychology and how they have maladaptive behaviors as a result of their socialization and a devaluing of themselves, then they won't understand where what we're coming from, right? But then you also have to have a different conversation on research methods, right? Like what are to look for in research, because any person can write a book and just say some stuff, but do they know how to evaluate source material? Do they know how to go to primary source material? Do they know how to juxtapose information and how to argue against, like how to do a proper not I mean it's all a peer review, but a literature review. Like, do they know how to do these things? And if they don't know how to do that, they don't know how to evaluate source material, then we can't, we still can't have the conversation because they don't have no background in history. They don't have a background in psychology to understand, the psychological warfare that's being done. And then, I heard you say that somebody didn't understand what an Africanism was.
Pan-Africanism, DJ. They tend, but it's all a part of the whole FBA.
Oh, okay,
FBA
Pan
argument.
Africanism. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yeah. You know how they'll just blatantly throw Pan-Africanism out to make it seem like
Yeah.
it's something other than what it's actually been defined as an action. So
Yeah, they
they
think
kind
Pan
of
Africanism is an ethnic group. Like you can't if you're claiming FBA is an ethnic group in a lineage, Pan African is not in that discussion, right? It is talking about the working together of various African groups, right? Just like how we have Pan Hellenic Council amongst the Divine Nine Greek lettered organizations on the college, right? And every now and then they will get together and they will kind of do a state of the art of what's going on now, or they'll come together and bring different organizations, but it'll include Alpha Phi Alpha, Phi Beta Sigma, Kappa Alpha Psi, Zeta Phi Beta, et cetera, AKAs, the Deltas, you know, but they're their own individual groups. They're the Pan Hellenic Council is not trying to merge all the groups into one group, into one fraternal organization. That's not how that rolls, and that's not how Pan Africanism rolls. It's a value system and a collective effort to pull together resources, to find common ground, to pool resources, and to develop strategies to survive in the world as it states now, when the entire world is coming together to exploit African people, no matter where they are, right? And
they told us this recently, though.
I'm sorry.
I mean, the government is telling us that without telling us that.
Yeah.
What you just said, China is doing that right now without saying anything.
Yeah.
Because they knew in order for them to have their golden age, everybody has to eat off Africa in order for their golden age to be substantiated, where they can control it.
Exactly. And so, they don't see themselves as African people. And that's why they won't understand Pan-Africanism, because they don't see themselves as African. Right? Like, so you got to understand, again, like we had these discussions before, of our ancestors were clear that they were African people, right? And they were from Africa. I still have yet to find an FBA organization in the 17 and 1800s where they're saying we the black Native Americans and all this other kind of stuff, right? And this is our culture, like, and European people have been all over this country interviewing and gaining intel on indigenous folks, but for some reason there's no full study on you guys. Make it make sense.
Right. That boy said,
where's your FBA dictionary?
He said Pan-Africa is controlled by a small hedge behind the scenes. He says Pan-African is an organization that gets grants under the label Africa.
Pan-African is not an organization. There's no Pan-African as an organization. See, this is you like those folks. You just gotta wish they grow old and die. That's all. There's no help for them. Like can't even get basic ish right.
Yeah, that's why I said it's just regurgitated talking points to gaslight people into an argument that goes nowhere.
It's like saying
it's in circles.
Spirituality is an organization, controlled by Jews.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about? Like, come on, son. Like, it's you just gotta wish them well, and let them be. But yeah, I'm gonna get off as well, and I'm hungry now.
Man,
y'all done talked me into an appetite.
Me too,
I know
man.
I should be eating this late.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on, man.
No doubt.
Glad to have the discussion. I'm probably sure we do it again. I just know that Panther wanted to do this before, he ends up where he's going to end up. And I think he'll speak more on where he's traveling to once he gets there, and then he returns back. But, he's going to handle some business over on the other continent. So I'm going to let him express and talk about that when he get back, man. And then we'll probably ask you brothers to come back, and we'll have another discussion on and this and that, a couple more people, to the top, because I'm pretty sure by the time all of that happens in a New York minute, things can turn around and expound. So appreciate you tapping in, bro, and everybody listening in too. All right, man. Peace to you, bro. And we'll catch you on the comeback. All right.
No doubt. All right. What's up? Peace. Happy New Year to everybody.
Yep. Yeah, to everybody. Peace. I'll be live tomorrow. I'm going to review a debate. Speaking about culture, to be honest, let me get off this big screen. Sorry, I got me on this. All right, but I'm going to be live tomorrow sometime. I ain't said the show up. I'm going to review a debate, and it's going to talk about culture. This debate is black. It's as it pertains to black people, right? Is it more of a African American thing, or is it more of an indigenous Native American thing? And the way that this was argued, I'm going to react to it, but y'all have to, if you didn't catch it, you have to make sure that y'all are here tomorrow. I probably do it around noonish, probably right after, I think Garfield show might end. Whatever the case may be, it might be about 11 to 12, but I want to kind of do it. It's serious. Like, you really got to understand what's going on, and it just an inkling into the issues that, have been discussed here today. This was very informative, to the degree that the conversation, instead of add to it, sometimes you just got to sit back and you got to listen and analyze, be a student. And I think most people are scared or afraid of being a student in certain arenas when you're on a panel full of people. There's a dear brother that's in the chat told me once upon a time, and I don't know if he still stick by this, but he told me, right, if you're the smartest person in the room, get out that room. Get out that room. And so, Ron, you was in the chat. You were saying a lot of things, talking about coming over there to your panel, this, that, and the third, because you're trying to have these mini debates where there's just conversations, no real informations or no presentations or none of that. I'm not going over there where I'm the smartest person in the room. That's why Rob Bourne was calling you out, bro, because you claim to be unbiased, FBA, whatever you done turned yourself into, but you don't know anything about Black history, right? You don't know anything about the culture. You don't know nothing. But you want us to have a conversation with you, or you want us to show up over there on your channel, and so that you can get views and argue in front of your people and try to control the narrative and then say all these things. I've been over there before, so I know how you rock, especially when it's an opposing view. So you want us to come over there and have a conversation with you on your platform about some shit you don't even study. You don't. You just started having this belief for clicks and views, bro, because you want to monetize and you want to get paid off the shit because you're on it all day. That's what you do over there. I ain't never seen you present. I ain't never seen you educate or share information about the Black experience in the Americas from 1492 beyond. I haven't seen you do that. So I'm not being I'm not brushing you off for saying you got to have this or have that, because I read what you said in the chat, and I know you're listening right now because you said you be clipping stuff up. So I know that you're listening, so make sure you clip this. You've never done anything on the African American experience or the Black experience or the Negro in the Americas. How did we get here? Where did we come from? All of that. Because you've always agreed, right? Not only with Garfield when you was on his panel, Unc when you was on his panel, way before you tried to be FBA. All these other platforms, you agreed with the science, the evolutionary process, all of those things, but you've never, ever, ever had your hands in on the Black experience in America and that history. And I know for sure that you ain't crammed all that information in your head in a matter of 7 to 8 months. I know you haven't. So it's a difficult conversation for you to have, and then you want me to show up on your platform so that you can get a view. It's crazy work. I don't even know if you're still teaching kindergarten or whatever it was you said that you was teaching or acting like you was teaching. I do remember you falling asleep several times during shows on your couch. That I do know. But he said, "Oh damn, the missing link." But yeah, man. So I just wanted to say that because I know you was in the chat. I know that you was linking. What up, IBM? What's good with you? Everybody, I appreciate y'all tapping in. Those of you who was coming in and out of the chat, it was a deep conversation. I know some people were uncomfortable with some of what Asar was saying, and then Dr. Asar and his pushback and asking for more information and to elaborate. Those are two high-level minds that were communicating appropriately back and forth with each other without even having anybody having to interject to say anything. So conversation can be had. It just have to be had intelligently around the right group of people in order to be able to hear people out and then be able to go through and critique them and them not get emotional about the critique or the challenge and then move forward from there. Like, that's what nerds do. That reminded me of probably a numerous conversations that were had in back chats and back channels from the old school days by other people with that same train of thought. So, yeah, man, I wish to see everybody and more here tomorrow as we do a reaction to YK's latest debate with Truthful. And then you're going to realize the disconnect in the person, the Black person that think that he's always been in America. And you're going to see how much time they're wasting and how unserious they are. Unity here in America as Pan-African is like still dreaming of going over. You're tripping, bro. People go to Africa all the time. As a matter of fact, there's been an uptick in people traveling to Africa for the New Year's. So I don't know what you're talking about, bro. You know what I'm saying? You have to get out of your own way, DJ, and you have to realize that you're really not, you don't know anything about what you're talking about. When I dropped the link, you could have hit the link to come up here and express your feelings. And I can tell you right now, based on how you're responding in the chat, it's your feelings is involved. You're too invested in how you feel. So when you're feeling, when your beliefs are challenged, you become emotional and you begin to just rant. And you've been doing that for at least 2 hours in the chat, just saying stupid shit. And you can't even define what Pan-Africanism is, bro. You told us motherfuckers was getting grants. That's why I work. So, ain't nobody doing none of that. So why is you sitting here just saying all that? People coming back talking about how they love Africa and all that. Some people still there. So anyway, tomorrow we're gonna get it up. We're gonna get it in. I'm gonna react live. I already got all my books and stuff lined up to where I want to express. I did in this chat leave some information for everybody if you want to take a look. of some information that'll be pertinent to you. I don't think that did I add these websites? Excuse me. No, I didn't. But the whole FBA model is um, on the backs of Africans. There's a book about the whole 1526 situation that the FBAs like to have on their website. You can find it. It's called South Carolina: A History. And it's written by Walter B. Edgar. There is, I think it's page 22. Yeah, 22 of that book will give you the Alion's 1520s, 26 journey, but also the so-called Negro, who we know, or African, entering into these territories. And there's a host of information pertaining to that. I think that I did leave that in the chat for people. It should be in the description of the video. I haven't checked. But just for some light reading and understanding, there was a book that Rob Warren also mentioned in the chat for people who may be interested in it. This book, man, if you buy the ebook, you can find it probably listed at $389. Then you'll find it probably cheaper than that. There's a way to get it where it really ain't gonna cost you much, but that's for Rob Bourne to tell you. Now, it's called Organizing Black America, an encyclopedia of African American associations. It's edited by Nina Mjagic. That's Nina Mjagkij. You'll be able to find that book. It talks about the Women's Missionary Society, the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the Negro Railway Labor Executives, Pennsylvania Freeman Relief Associations, National Medical Associations, National Dental Associations, National Associations of Black Geologists and Geophysicists, Minority Women in Science, Black Academy of Arts and Letters, Black Women Liberation Committee, Minority Women in Science again, the African Aid Society, African Americans for Humanism, and much, 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 much more. Over 500 organizations, founders, memberships, etc. are in that book. That's why he was mentioning it earlier. But yeah, FBA on the backs of Claude Anderson and Yvette and Tone. IBM, I guess. Then DJ says, never heard of a white Latino as a parent. Oh yeah, dude tripping in the chat. But nah, man, I appreciate everybody tapping in, man. Make sure y'all here tomorrow. I'm probably gonna do it around noon. I'm gonna set that up, and so everybody, I had a link. I had the information available for everybody to tap into in case you need some education on that. And I appreciate y'all tapping in, man. Black Panther, you probably gonna wake up in the morning and probably catch the rest of the show. So, bro, safe travels. Let us know how you go. When you get there, you already know, bro. Peace and love to everybody in the chat. Appreciate y'all even going back and forth. Even those of you who are stouched FBAers out there, whatever the hell that means. It was good to see Sister Naya in the chat. That was interesting. You know, she's been too busy, but she might be on the holidays. So appreciate you showing up, Sister Naya. Hope all is well with you and your family. There's a couple other people I hadn't seen in a minute show up. Peace to all of y'all. Asar must have brought y'all out. One of the Asars brought y'all out. But yeah, y'all be cool, man. Enjoy the rest of y'all evening. Get y'all some rest. Peace, love, and soul from your brother, Sean P. at Amasi. We up out of this thing. Like this.
From Africa, but they will be able to tell you about Africa. They wouldn't be vaguely saying they from Africa, brother. Like when a European says I'm from Europe, he doesn't say I'm from Europe. He says I'm from Germany. I'm from a particular province. I still got people out there, right? You know, when people say hold on. When people say they from Asia, they tell you where about from Asia they from. They tell you their province. They tell you they still got people out there these people will confirm that they are indeed a part of their heritage. But you niggas was calling y'all African? Oh, mysteriously, you have no contact with the people you say you descend from. So I don't believe you. Bro.
Hating Africa and hating the African, we ended up even hating ourselves without even realizing it. Because you can't hate the roots of a tree and not hate the tree. The roots of a tree and not hate the tree.
You ain't no Indian, please try again. Everybody know you's an African. And Malcolm X said, you can't hate the root without hating the tree. Now take a look at you, you's a wannabe Cherokee. And I told you before, you need some therapy. And why you never show the genealogy? You owe your ancestors an apology. And you know they turning over inside of their graves just because you don't wanna come from a slave. So you gotta take this whip in. I caught another apple slipping. Caught another apple slipping. Caught another apple slipping. Caught another apple. Caught another apple. Caught another apple slipping. Ay. Caught another apple. Let's go slipping. Ay. Caught another apple. Let's go slipping. Ay. Caught another apple. Caught another. Let's go. Caught another apple slipping. Caught another apple slipping. Caught another apple slipping. Caught another apple. Caught another apple. Caught another apple slipping. Yo, check this out, man. You wasn't already here, man. Dane Calloway lied to you, man. The research guy lied to you, man. Karimio lied to you, man. Your ancestors come from Africa, whether you like it or not. So no matter what you do, no matter what you say, you will always be an African. You can't deny the facts. You can't deny the evidence. You can't deny the genealogy. You can't deny the DNA. You can't deny it, man. Whether you like it or not, you are African. Call the abo slipping. That's all we do. That's all we do. Let's go.
Got some dewy-eyed thing that you got a friend. I still ask you to look at that mirror. And if nothing staring back at you is friendly, then you've got no friend.